This boy gets humiliated by his wife's family. Chin Li married the daughter of this rich family because his family was rich too. But the mother-in-law, she hates him, thinks he's weak, thinks he's talentless. This is Ming Hao. The woman told him she regrets not realizing how talented he was, said she should have married her daughter to him instead. Ming Hao is a family friend. He hates Chin Li too, even offers money for him to leave Chu Qingyin. What they don't know, Chin Li is no loser. He's been training for the last 10 years, a secret only his family knows. And today, that day has come. He finally unlocked his hidden power. On the first day his power awakened, Ming Hao insulted him again. Chin Li grabbed his hand, crushed it, showed he wasn't a pushover, and made it clear, "Say my name right, it's Chin Li." The mother-in-law had never seen this side of him. She and her sister-in-law were shocked. Ming Hao was furious, but couldn't even speak with his hand being crushed. The mother-in-law was ready to start a fight, but then Chu Zitan's phone rang. Bad news from the family company. Something big happened. Chin Li listened carefully. His wife works at the company. This could be about her, so he grabs the phone to ask what's going on. That move left Chu Zitan speechless. Until today, Chu Zitan was always arrogant, rich, spoiled. In public, she always humiliated Chin Li. They treated him like a servant, their personal driver. But today, he's strangely confident and intimidating. The mother-in-law panicked, told Ming Hao to handle it. Apparently, the police showed up at the store. Ming Hao was nervous, but bragged his political friends would fix it. At Sky Eagle Company, a woman was making a scene, pointing at Chin Li's wife, accusing her of being the culprit. They messed up her face, and they were going to pay for it. Chu Qingyin stayed silent. The woman wanted 1 million in compensation. That's a lot. Ming Hao stepped in and said loudly, "Side effects are normal in cosmetics, not the company's fault. You should know that if you're so smart." But then, the woman replied, "The city mayor is my cousin. You sure you want to talk to me like that?" Ming Hao froze. He tucked his tail between his legs. Didn't expect her to be that powerful. He started shaking and said this wasn't his problem anymore. Then Chin Li walked in, and everything changed. He told the woman, "Give me 10 minutes. I'll fix your face. Our hero's wife is the only one in the family who likes him." And even she was shocked by his confidence. Ming Hao still held a grudge, but Chin Li didn't care. Chu Qingyin told him she was tired, begged him not to cause more trouble. But Chin Li looked confident, stronger than ever, and promised, "I'm not the same man anymore." Ming Hao watched, hoping this would blow up in Chin Li's face. People in the store whispered, "What can that useless guy even do?" Then Chin Li spoke loud and clear, "I can heal the lady's face." Of course, the woman didn't believe him. She said those were empty words, but Chin Li doubled down. "If I can't do it, I'll cut my own dick off." The woman smiled, told him not to blame her for being ruthless later. That meant she accepted, but his wife hated that deal. That body part didn't belong only to him, so he pulled her close, explained the cause of the blisters, asked for her help to make the medicine. She trusted him, but Chin Li admitted, "No guarantees it will work." The woman goes after what her husband asked for, and Liu starts cursing, saying he will get into a lot of trouble because of this. The protagonist turns to Liu and says that if he can cure her, please do it. But it only makes him more outraged for being humiliated by Qin Yan's husband. The company owner returns with everything that was asked for, but Chu mourns that if something goes wrong, the Chu family will not be involved. Chin Li knows that the Chu family wouldn't get involved in this, especially with something involving the son-in-law, but he needs to act, so he takes everything and starts grinding the ingredients, using his power to open the bottle and infuse it with energy, which heats the water. He is no longer the mute man because now he speaks and can get things done. Chin Li makes a very happy expression when he finishes preparing the balm, announcing that it is ready, and starts to bring it to the girl with a smile on his face. He asks if he can apply the solution to the pimples to try to improve them. The problem is that the solution has a very grotesque appearance. The employees laugh at the appearance of the balm, which is hot and looks very disgusting. Hesitant but determined, the mayor's niece pinches her nose and begins to apply the solution to her face. However, she only applies a little on her face. Chin Li quickly smiles and applies much more, leaving the girl very disgusted. Disgusted by what happened, the mayor's niece starts running towards the bathroom as if she were going to vomit. Liu and the other employees continue mocking him, saying he is crazy, but his wife is still somewhat doubtful, wanting to know if it will work. A scream can be heard from the women's bathroom where the mayor's daughter was, which gets everyone's attention. But she comes out with her face completely clean as if it were a miracle, and there was nothing more on her face. Her skin was smooth. Those who were belittling Chin Li, saying he couldn't do it, are now speechless and can't believe what they are seeing. The protagonist explains that the problem wasn't the product, but the woman's internal body temperature. It was enough to use anti-inflammatory and antipyretic measures for the sores to disappear. The employees still don't believe that someone they consider so defeated managed to cure the condition, and his wife asks what happened, how he did the cure. He says he studied pharmacology, and the girl who was just cured asks if he can cure any disease. Chin Li responds that he first needs to see the patient. The girl says her uncle has a very serious illness, and that if he can cure him, she will pay him 500,000. Chin Li accepts without blinking, which leaves his wife very astonished, saying he is crazy to do this. She says he shouldn't go because he isn't a doctor and be treating sick people, but with a smile on his face, he asserts that there's nothing to worry about, but Chin Li is still very worried and says that her family won't help him if he kills someone. Seeing that even his wife doesn't believe in his abilities, he just lowers his head and starts to leave the place. His wife calls his name once more. Impatient, he takes a deep breath and says that if anything happens, he will handle it himself and won't cause any more problems for the Chu family. As Mike falls, they arrive at the hospital in Yangsheng City. We see Liu Zheng, the mayor of Yangsheng City, talking to a doctor. The doctor says that his father's condition is terrible and that surgery would be very risky. The mayor's cousin is with Chin Li and is scared because her uncle is already in the IQ. Liu Chang explains that this morning, his father's condition got much worse, and the doctor said there was nothing more he could do, which leaves the niece extremely shocked. She introduces Chin Li as a specialist in Chinese medicine. Perhaps with his skill, you can heal her uncle. The skeptical cousin asks if he is really a doctor, and Chin Li responds that he is. Still skeptical, Liu Chang comments on how young the boy is and asks to see his medical diploma. Chin Li says he doesn't have a diploma. Horrified by this, the cousin starts arguing and says he would never let someone without a diploma take care of his father, leaving the niece shocked by her relative. The girl is devastated hearing these things and asks Chin to leave. At this moment, a nurse appears at the door screaming that the patient's vital signs are very weak and for them to come immediately. Everyone is shocked and turns to the nurse, hearing this with great astonishment. They all run into the room and Liu Chang is very scared of losing his father, who is on the stretcher. He asks the doctor what is happening to his father, and the doctor responds that he has tried everything. His cousin continues to plead with Liu Chang to let Chin Li see the patient. Saying that maybe he can help, Chang responds that he would never let someone so young take care of his father. The machine shows that the patient's vital signs are getting weaker. Chin Li says he can save him, but it has to be now, and there is no more time to waste. However, Chang yells for him to get out. Then he asks if Mayor Liu wants to make a bet, but Li responds that he doesn't want anything and questions what he could gain from a bet with someone like him. The bet is simple. If the patient is cured, he only wants an apology. Otherwise, he will go to jail. Both cousins ask Chin to leave the room, saying he is crazy for talking like that. Chin says he will leave but guarantees they will regret it. As he leaves the room, he sees his wife in the hallway, and the first thing she says is about her husband's foolish behavior. With a very serious posture, she continues saying he should go home and stop embarrassing himself. The sound of the electrocardiogram machine catches Chin Li's attention because the patient's vital signs are dropping further. Liu Chang asks what is happening to his father, and even the doctors can't understand. The doctor tells the nurse to run and get a pacemaker. In the meantime, the machine indicates that Chang's father's heartbeat has reached 0. The man's heart has stopped. The doctor says there is nothing more that can be done with this sad expression on his face. Liu Chang is incredulous about what happened and says that his father was alive just a few minutes ago. Very sad, the doctor expresses his condolences. Regretful, the mayor kneels and starts crying, saying he didn't take good care of his father and didn't spend enough time with him. The door opens with a loud bang that grabs everyone's attention. Chin Li is determined to save the patient and asks everyone to step back because he can still be saved. He pulls out several very thin needles from inside his coat, recalling that 10 years ago these techniques were taught to by an immortal being. He begins to work on the chest of the dead man, but Zhang can't believe what his eyes are seeing because the boy is emanating a lot of energy from within himself. To be able to use these techniques, Chin Li couldn't speak for 10 years. But everything will make sense now because he can use this technique to save someone's life, and he starts inserting several power-charged needles into the patient's chest. Before inserting the last needle, he thinks that 10 years of patience were worth it. When he pricks the last needle into the patient's neck, something surprising happens. The patient starts coughing up blood but comes back to life. The whole family is very happy because the patient came back to life with Chin Li's help. The protagonist feels extremely relieved and says he managed to save him just in time. The doctor can't believe what he's seeing and asks how he managed to do that. The whole family is happy to see their relative well and finally awake after the scare of him almost dying. The old man tells his niece not to worry and that he is sad for making her so concerned. With a smile on his face, Chin Li turns to leave the room, leaving the family there. But he hears Liu Zhang kneeling on the floor and calling his name. When he turns around, the mayor says he is a man of little faith and should have trusted the boy earlier to save his father. Even after treating the boy so badly, he still saved his father. Chin Li tells the mayor not to worry much. His father will soon be stable and will recover. The girl also apologizes and says she will pay the 500,000 as promised, just that he needs to send his bank account number. When he closes the door and leaves the room, he hears his wife's voice again, speaking in a sarcastic tone. Wonderful, Dr. Chin. He had noticed she was there and starts looking at her slowly. His wife is beginning to understand what is happening. She says it's just a coincidence and that he shouldn't try doing that ever again. Chin wonders what kind of image his wife has of him and thinks it must be a pretty bad one. Liu, Chin's former suitor, is watching everything from the corner and is very nervous seeing the boy succeed. The couple returns home, arriving in the middle of the night. Chin's mother asks how her daughter is, if she is still scared, and wants to know what happened while Chin Li observes the two talking. Chin says that everything is fine now and that it's all over, but her mother is shocked to hear her speak so calmly. The mother-in-law turns to her son-in-law and starts shouting, asking why he is standing standing there and tells him to clean the house. Chin Li, with a mocking tone, says, "It's okay." Chin Li returns to his room after finishing all the household chores and is astonished by what he sees when he gets there. His wife is only in a nightgown, doing some stretches she sees on TV. While walking, Chin Li can see that she is doing some yoga exercises. While stretching, his wife starts saying that she heard from her sister that he acted like a pervert today. He explains that after picking up the girl from college, he was changing in his room and she accidentally opened the door and saw him. He turns to see his wife, who is in a very thin nightgown, and continues stretching, controlling her breathing and questions if that was all that happened. During the stretch, she needs to press hard on her chest area. This makes Chin Li quite interested in the way she is stretching. Chin Yan continues saying that she knows her sister's temperament and doesn't believe that her husband would do anything to bother her. She also asks him not to be so impulsive and that he was lucky everything worked out today. To conclude, she adds that tomorrow they will have a meeting with her family that they should attend. Having dinner with his wife's family is not a very pleasant idea for Chin Li, but he says it's okay. His wife is exhausted and finally throws herself on the bed to rest. Her voice now starts to sound velvety, as if coming from within flowers. She gently thanks her husband for everything he did that day. You can hardly believe what he's hearing because it's one of the first times Chin Yan says thank you to him. At dawn, we see the facade of a luxurious building called the Royal Hotel. Inside the hotel, there's a restaurant where Chin Yan's entire family is starting to greet each other one by one. Chin Yan's father is very happy to welcome all the Q family to their first annual gathering. His wife's aunt is wearing a very fancy dress, and he knows that this woman will try to belittle him. Her name is Chu Bi Qian, and she is Chin Li's father-in-law's older sister. This aunt asks when Chin Yan will have a child. While sipping her glass of wine, Chin Yan says they are not ready yet, so they shouldn't rush to have a child. The aunt says it's good to have a child soon while she is young, and Chin Li doesn't stop eating the banquet's delicacies on the table. She continues saying that she herself doesn't need to worry about it because her son-in-law, unlike some people, doesn't need his wife to take care of him. Mrs. Chu, with a smile on her face, says that her son-in-law is not just any man. She is very happy because he has a job in the government, unlike some other people. But meanwhile, Chin Li continues devouring the banquet. The aunt gives a small cough signal for her son-in-law, Cheng Wen, to notice. Cheng Wen then stands up, thanking for being at the first family gathering, and that he has a present for the uncle, handing him a beautiful red box. Chin Yan's father is extremely amazed to see what's inside the box. His eyes widen in admiration when he receives a porcelain gift. While admiring the wonderful porcelain piece, Cheng Wen says he bought this porcelain for 300,000, and it is from the Yuan dynasty. 300,000 is a very high amount, but this ceramic piece is very valuable. At this moment, the atmosphere in the room seems much heavier after the ceramic is revealed. Chin Li can feel a malicious aura coming from there. Probably this artifact is full of evil energy, and perhaps even with a terrible curse. His in-laws are still amazed by what they received, saying that Cheng Wen is very generous to give such a valuable treasure as a gift, but Chin Li can only feel the evil aura emanating from this ceramic piece. Cheng Wen starts to provoke Chin Li, saying that he must have prepared a great gift as well, but soon mocks him, saying that he is unemployed and depends on his wife, so since he has no money, he won't bring anything. But if he wants, he can offer a garbage collector job at the city hall, leaving his wife nervous with these comments and saying that he can't talk like that to her husband. Cheng Wen continues mocking Chin Lai, who stands up and says that he was in a hurry and couldn't bring anything. Cheng Wen is astonished to see that Chin Lai can speak, and Cheng's wife says that even speaking, he remains a loser who can't do anything. Chin Lai then cleverly says that it doesn't matter what he brought, it would be much more valuable than something fake. Everyone gets nervous hearing this and the aunt starts cursing, but Cheng Wen says he spent 300,000 on the piece. Chin Lai says it doesn't matter how much he spent, the piece is still fake. Cheng Wen gets very angry, calling Chin Lai a loser for saying his gift is fake, and slams the table hard, knocking over his glass. He wonders how Chin could have guessed it was fake since the guaranteed that the bowl was genuine and that no one would be able to tell if it was fake. Chin Lai feels challenged and is going to show why it is fake. The father-in-law tells Chin Lai to be quiet, and his wife says he can't be so rude since everyone there is family. The aunt keeps needling, saying that he's simply accused without reason, and the boy asks if the cousin admits that the ceramic is just a replica. His wife says it doesn't matter if it's fake or not. It's a gesture of gratitude, and today is a family dinner and they shouldn't be fighting. The sound of the door opening catches everyone's attention, and the mayor enters the room, asking what is fake there. With him is Wan Feng Mao. Cheng Wen is surprised that the mayor is there and starts to approach him. He extends his hand toward the mayor to greet him, and the mayor also raises his hand as if to greet Cheng Wen. But Mayor Liu walks past him and greets Chin Lai, very happy and grateful to see him, also saying he didn't expect to find him there. Cheng Wen says that Chin Lai is just a mute person and should be treated like trash. Hearing this, the mayor gets very angry and asks who said that. The man responds that his name is Cheng Wen, chief secretary of the city hall. He discreetly turns and asks if Chin has any problems with Cheng Wen, and Chin says no, they were just discussing the legitimacy of the porcelain. Intrigued by the ancient piece in front of him, the mayor calls the man who was with him to take a look. The man says he hasn't done many evaluations lately, but blue and white ceramics are his specialty, and he begins to examine the piece closely. He brings the bowl closer to his face and states that the designs and colors seem to be from the on it. Qian asks if the appraiser believes it is really original or just a copy. Since the appraiser had said the piece was from the Yuan dynasty, nasty, he is intrigued if the boy is doubting his ability, thinking it is fake. Chin asks if it really isn't fake, and the appraiser laughs and pats the boy on the shoulder, saying he now understands why the mayor likes him so much. He explains that the bowl is indeed fake, that when you look from a distance it seems like an original bowl, and says the design is very sophisticated, but it lacks the elegance and sophistication of the original piece. He adds that the piece was buried with someone and absorbed a lot of bad energy in the person's tomb. So the appraiser says the bowl is cursed on top of everything. Chin Li's mother-in-law becomes desperate and tells her husband to clean his hands, while the aunt scolds Chung Wen, who apologizes saying he didn't know that. The appraiser says that the imitation is very good, very well done, but good eye can see it, and invites Chin for tea later. The mayor says that Chin is an honored guest, and that he was just about to talk to him about something. So the boy tells his wife's relatives to continue eating, and you will return as soon as he finishes the meeting with the mayor. The nasty aunt says that the boy is indeed a good catch, and the mother-in-law is smiling because she decided not to speak to maintain appearances. Chin continues talking with the mayor, who says that his father after returning home got sick again. In the past few months, his wife and son also fell ill, and hearing this, Chin Li focuses all his energy and asks to check the mayor's pulse. The mayor extends his hand to Chin, and as expected, there is a malignant energy that is dissipated by Chin's energy in the mayor's pulse, and he asks what it is that he is feeling, but Chin tells him not to worry, that he knows exactly what to do. After dinner, he will go to the mayor's house to resolve this once and for all. The mayor is happy to hear this and says he will welcome him and wait for him at his house. Later in the day, after finishing the meeting, Chin is helping his father-in-law into the car. He tells his wife and sister-in-law to go ahead with his father-in-law, but he has to step out, and hearing this, his wife responds quite rudely. After everyone leaves in the car, Chin takes his phone and starts setting a route on his GPS. He searches for the way to get to the mayor's house, which is near where he was. He moves forward and turns right onto a very busy street, while the GPS indicates a route through an alley that Chin should take to reach his destination. The GPS voice indicates that there are only 50 meters left to reach his destination at the end of this alley. However, midway, Liu is there with several armed thugs waiting for Chin. The young man continues looking at the alley, then at Liu and the various thugs behind him, all waiting for him to arrive. Chin Li is being blocked from passing through the alley as it is full of Liu Ming Hao's armed thugs, the former suitor of his wife, Chin Yan. Liu says that the only way for Chin to leave is to let them cut off both his hands. With a mocking tone and so calm that he even cleans his own ear, Chin sees the man with his malicious face and an evil look that responds that Chin shouldn't worry about anything because now they will take care of everything. To motivate them, Liu shouts that he will give 50,000 to whoever cuts off Chin's hands. After shouting this, all the armed thugs rush towards Chin to attack him. With a confident smile on his face, an aura of energy starts to surround the young man. He concentrates all of his energy to deliver very powerful blows, starting with kicking one of the thugs right in front of him. With just one blow, he knocks one down, then turns to another, and with a very strong punch to the stomach, knocks him down as well. His blows are very strong and fast, and he continues hitting the thugs, and with each blow, one of them falls. After some time, Chin isn't even tired and asks if that was all. Liu Ming Hao, with a destroyed look on his face, can't believe what he's seeing. With an expression of terror, he tries to understand how someone treated like trash could now become so strong out of nowhere. Chin then makes a provocative gesture towards Liu, inviting him to come closer as if to fight. But Liu's plans are different, and he starts running for his life, telling Chin not to come near him. Relieved that it's all over, Chin can finally breathe calmly. He continues his way to the mayor's house, which is in the same direction as the alley where Liu Ming Hao's thugs were. All the thugs are left defeated and unconscious on the alley floor. As the day ends, the colors of the sunset start to fill the sky. Just ahead is the mayor's house, and Chin is approaching a large mansion. Finally, he finds the house, and is sure it is the right one. The young man rings the doorbell, waiting for it to be answered. He can already sense that there are very bad energies coming from that place, and when the mayor opens the door, despite seeming happy, there are deep, dark circles under his eyes. The mayor invites him in, but Chin can see that the house's energy is very malignant. The entire environment is infested with this dark energy. It seems much worse than Chin thought. Suddenly, a very loud scream is heard coming from inside. The two men hurry down the corridor. The mayor opens the door, worried about his wife, and asks if his son Xiaoji is getting worse again. While the mayor tends to his wife, Chin can see that the boy Xiaoji is floating, and the woman is completely terrified. Chin is also shocked by what he sees. His eyes are fully focused on that malignant energy. The boy is indeed floating, enveloped by a dark energy that seems to have the shape of a face and makes a noise like a rattlesnake. The mayor is terrified, but Chin assures him that he will save the boy, but the energy is so much that it even has a bodily form. The monster, realizing Chin's power, starts to get very nervous, and its eye glows with anger. The entity starts speaking through the child, saying not to confront it and to stay away. It repeats the same phrase several times in a very creepy tone. Chin gathers his energy and is ready to act. With a quick movement, he throws several acupuncture needles at the boy, all charged with energy. The needles don't hit the boy, they hit only the focal point of the malignant energy, which when struck, emits a white flash and begins to dissipate. The mayor and his wife are worried about their son, who falls onto the bed very exhausted, but Chin Lai tells them not to approach because it's not over yet. The energy is still inside the boy's body, and he needs to remove it to cleanse him. The mayor and his wife start to get very nervous. Influenced by the energy, they start cursing at each other, and the wife calls Chin Li trash, while the mayor tells everyone to shut up. Seeing that they are also contaminated by the energy, Chin makes a small cut on his thumb, concentrates all of his energy, and places a needle on the boy's forehead, who starts to scream while a black energy begins to rise into the air, taking a very strange form. We can see that it is pure dark energy. Chin Li's energy is passing through the boy's body, and he begins to float again because of the two energies. One is entering and purifying him, while the other is leaving, which is the malignant energy pouring out in large amounts from the boy. As it starts to accumulate above the room, Chin Li charges 3 needles with energy and throws them at the black mass to disperse it. The boy starts to wake up and immediately calls his mother, who hugs him tightly. Chin Li tells the mayor that he doesn't need to worry anymore, that now he just needs to find the source of this sinister aura. The mayor doesn't quite understand what this aura is. The young man starts investigating the room, asking if anything has happened recently with the family, or if they receive any gifts. Realizing that there is nothing in the room emanating this energy, it must be outside the house. He begins to move toward the front of the house, and the mayor follows him. Upon reaching the front door, he can see that inside a statue, there is a small stone charged with malignant energy. He removes the stone from the statue and shows it to the mayor, saying that this is the source of all the problems, but the mayor doesn't believe that a small stone could influence him in such a way. Chin Lai explains that the malignant aura of the stone will always come into contact with him when he enters and leaves the house. The more contact he has with this malignant energy, the more infested he will become, becoming irritable and weak. To resolve this and end the issue, Chin Lai concentrates his power and breaks the stone, dispersing all the malignant energy from that place. The mayor's wife thanks Chin Lai for saving the child and apologizes for what she said earlier when referring to him. Chin Lai has no problem and only wants the child to be well. The mayor is very happy and says he will ask the driver to take him home, but before that, he asks if Chin Lai would like to open a clinic, surprising him with a proposal. He starts thinking about how it would be to open a medical clinic, and the mayor says he wants to repay the favor since Chin saved several members of his family. Chin Lai thanks the mayor and starts heading towards the car, very happy with the idea the mayor presented. During a trip to his house, it begins to get dark, and Chin thinks that with a clinic he could help many more people. If his parents could see what he is doing, they would surely be very proud of him. As they drive through the city, Chin Lai observes the streetlights, and something catches his attention so much that he even shouts for the driver to stop the car. The request is very sudden, and the driver brakes so hard that Chin hits his face on the front seat. A little irritated, the driver asks if they have reached their destination. Chin turns around and sees his wife, but doesn't understand what she is doing in that place so late. He hides, observing what she is doing, which catches the driver's attention, who can see that the young man is looking at a girl and says that she is very beautiful. We see another girl in high heels walking and wearing a tight leather outfit that attracts the attention of several people. This person is Chin Yan's best friend, and perhaps the young man is exaggerating, thinking that she could be doing something wrong. Chin Yan and her friend finally meet, and the red-haired woman apologizes for being late. As they get closer, the two kiss passionately. After kissing, Chin Lai is very embarrassed, but the red-haired woman Wai Mai is not. Chin Lai is stunned by what is happening, and the driver is very shocked. He can't understand the situation. Is his wife cheating on him with another woman? With the lights illuminating the girls, we see them walking towards a nearby club. The driver with a smile on his face says the young man has good eyes, but Chin Lai says that's not what he's thinking. He can see that his wife's friend makes a very strange sign over Chin Yan's shoulder. When they enter the place, there are various types of music, dancing, and some drinks. As soon as Wei enters, she asks for her favorite wine and says she missed Chin Yan very much. While the bartender prepares some drinks, they sit at the bar. Chin Yan says she has many problems at work, which is why she couldn't see her friend. Her friend tells her not to think about bad things now, and that they should just have fun. They decide to get drunk and have fun together, toasting the first glass with huge smiles on both their faces. After a long time, several bottles have been opened, and they continue drinking. The girl tells her friend that if she didn't need a sham marriage, she wouldn't be under so much pressure, and Chin Yan already seems to be drunk. Her friend feels sorry for what's happening and offers her a special drink. Chin Yan drinks the entire drink without asking, but her friend doesn't drink the other one, just watches her. As soon as she finishes drinking, she passes out, and her friend puts her on her shoulders. The two get up and start heading towards a staircase. They climb the stairs with great difficulty to the second floor of the building. When they get there, they are greeted by Ming Hao, who still has an obsession with Chin Yan. Liu is in a very large room. He takes the girl and carries her towards a red bed with a camera pointed at it, while her friend watches everything. He puts Chin Yan on the bed with a malicious look and says he can't be blamed for what he does. Meanwhile, the other girl leaves the room, and Liu locks the door. Since Chin Yan is unconscious, he remains lying on the bed, and Liu starts touching her clothes and body. A faint rustling can be heard in in the back of the room as Liu moves over Chin Yan, but soon 3 knocks on the door are heard. This catches Liu's attention, and he nervously asks who is at the door. The person replies that it's room service. Liu thinks it might be some drink the girl with Chin Yan ordered, but when he opens the door, he sees a figure that bursts in and surprises him. It's Chin Lai, who stands in the doorway facing Liu, who can't believe he's there, while the other girl is already unconscious in front of the door. Liu starts making excuses, saying that Chin Yan was drunk and that he was going to help her. But before he can finish explaining, Chin Li knees him forcefully, throwing him against the wall. The force is so great that Liu feels immense pain in his chest and even starts coughing up blood. Chin approaches him and in a very menacing voice asks how he wants to die. Liu starts begging for his life, kneeling before Chin, saying he will never appear in their lives again. He begs for forgiveness and even calls Chin master, who is merciful and tells him he can get up and disappear while thanking him. The criminal passes behind Chin with a fake smile on his face, but something is strange. Stunningly, Liu says Chin should go to hell and holds a knife, trying to stab the young man in the back, but he dodges the blow and says he has already given Liu 2 chances and there won't be any more. Chin takes a needle, charges it with energy, and makes a very precise strike in Liu's hip area, exactly where it is like breaking 2 eggs. Chin reprimands his opponent because he brought this upon himself. Liu falls to the ground, writhing and foaming in pain. Both who were conspiring against Chin Yan are kicked out of the room. Chin closes the door and says he is relieved to have found his wife in time. With a worried look, he begins to charge a needle and sits next to his wife. Chin makes a small prick on his wife's wrist and starts transmitting his energy into her. Chin Yan's eyes begin to open very slowly. Her husband asks if she is awake and how she is feeling. The girl starts to respond, but notices that someone had tampered with her clothes and the place where she is. She gets stressed again and slaps Chin Li, calling him a perverted bastard. Incredulous at this, the young man says he just saved her, so why did she hit him? But Chin Yan doesn't believe she was being saved. She thinks he was doing something wrong. The girl doesn't trust him at all and calls him a pervert. Chin Li has nothing more to say. He just stands up, defeated, and says it's up to her whether she believes him or not. As he closes the door, she continues cursing him and throwing some objects at the door. Chin Yan feels very bad about the situation and starts looking around the room. Then the beep of the camera catches her attention. She notices there is a camera on a tripod that has been recording all this time. Chin Li goes to a park near a forest and receives a call on his cell phone. The person calling wants to know if the phone belongs to Chin Li. Chin Li recognizes the voice as Li Wan, the girl whose pimples Chin Li's mom cured, and asks why she is calling. The girl replies that she wants to buy a large quantity of the balm and that if he could improve it by adding something to lighten the skin, it would help even more. Chin Li is very excited about the idea of being able to sell and wants to know how many jars she wants so he can prepare them all. Li Wan says she wants about 200 jars and will deposit a large sum of money. The young man says he can do it without a problem, but that it isn't as expensive as she thinks. The girl says she heard from her cousin that they opened a medical clinic and she will sponsor this clinic. Chin Li is very happy and grateful. At the Accenture family home, the clock strikes 1 in the morning and Chin Yan is scared because she is waiting for her husband to return. She thinks it's unusual for him not to come back so late. The husband must be very angry because she misinterpreted the situation, but she hears the door opening. They meet in the living room and stand in silence for a minute. He starts heading towards his room and she asks why he arrived so late. Her concern surprises him. Hesitating with his response, he says he had work to do, and she immediately says to forget about it and pretend she didn't ask anything. Chin Li sees that she is very nervous and looks at her waiting for her to say something. Chin Yan starts talking about what happened today and what she did. He asks what went wrong for her to have to drink so much. Very sadly, Chin Yan says that her company will probably fire her. Chin Yan begins to explain the situation and says she will be fired because of the incident with Li Wan, and her colleagues usually gossip about it with everyone. One of the managers has had several conversations with her, and in one of them said she should resign. Chin Li tries to comfort her, saying that even if she is fired, everything will be fine. But Chin Yan can't understand how everything will be fine without a job. How will she take care of a family? After all, it's not easy to find a job. As he walks to sit down, Chin Li tries to clarify what he meant and asks if she remembers how he saved the mayor's father at the hospital. To show his gratitude, the mayor offered him a clinic and he had already made some money by curing people. And if she is willing, the two of them can run the clinic together, he says while drinking a cup of tea. Chin Yan is surprised to hear this, and by the way, her husband is supporting her. The young man continues saying that it will still take some time for the clinic to open, and he is going to sleep and starts going up the stairs towards his room. Chin Yan is grateful for his comforting words, and to be honest, she also wanted to apologize to her husband. The next morning, the Chu house doorbell is constantly ringing, and a voice can be heard calling Chin Yan very loudly. A girl is in front of the house, shouting for someone to open the door. Chin Li is still very tired from the previous night and hasn't even taken off his pajamas. From the voice, he already guesses who is on the other side of the door. He opens the door, knowing who must be on the other side, and sees a girl there, a young woman with short hair and sunglasses, who is surprised to see Chin Li. Her name is Tan Zijian, and she is Chin Yan's best friend. Chin Yan and Chin Li met in college, and they already knew Zijian from that time. Zijian still can't believe how Chin Yan married a man like him. Chin remembers the college days when she frequently played pranks on him, like the time she put itching powder in his shorts. And when he put put on those shorts in his dorm, the young man started to have uncontrollable itching. Zijian calls Qin Yan to come down quickly because they want to go shopping. They head to the central area. The day is beautiful with the sun illuminating the water and birds flying. Zijian is very excited, singing from inside the car. Inside the car are Qin Li, Qin Yan, and Zijian. The friend says they are going to a surprise place. Soon, they arrive at their destination. They park the car in front of a very luxurious building, the tallest building in the city. Zijian says there will be an auction there where only rich and famous people are invited. In front of the place, Zijian hands over an invitation to enter and says that the driver, Qin Li, is also with them. They all go up to the building's rooftop, which has more than 90 floors. It is indeed the tallest building in the city. Zijian says the coolest thing there is the gemstone auction, where you either double your money or lose everything. This very luxurious hall is where the auction takes place with a very chic atmosphere and various drinks being served by beautiful. As they head to the auction area, the friend teases Qin Li to buy a gemstone for his wife. The young man responds that if she likes one, he will buy it. The next item to be auctioned is a raw jade stone. The two girls are very excited about what is happening, but Qin Li is a bit bored. Something catches his attention from afar. He can see that in the discard area there is a stone charged with energy, emanating a very strong aura. When he gets closer, he realizes that the energy resonates with the energy inside his body, and he makes a move to pick up the stone. The auction announcements continue. 100,000 once, 100,000 twice, and the price changes as the bidding increases. Qinyan hears from her friend that if she wants any stone, her husband will buy it. Tan Zijian says that if he's lying about this, she will deal with him. But her friend asks her to calm down and asks where Qin Li is because she noticed he was no longer by their side. Qin Li wants to buy the stone that is charged with energy and asks for its price. The girl replies that at around $50 to $100 each stone. He starts searching his pockets and finds various crumpled notes and a few coins. He hands the girl several crumpled $10 and $2 bills and some coins to make up the total amount. He asks for help to cut the stone. Zijian is incredulous to see that he went to get the cheapest stones and says those stones have no value. She adds that if he cared, he would buy her a precious stone, and that's why the clinic's story might also be a lie. While she says these things, the girl who went to cut the stone for Qin Li is very surprised and shouts, announcing that the stone is full of jade inside. Despite its exterior appearance, it is very valuable inside, but she speaks so loudly that she catches the attention of the entire hall. Everyone turns to see the stone. The people there start to gather around to see, admiring the stone and taking pictures of it. Excited by the idea of finding more of these, everyone starts grabbing the stones that were marked for disposal. Meanwhile, people want to buy Qin Li's stone. A girl offers $300,000, but a man offers $500,000. Then someone offers to buy the stone for $5 million. A man with glasses starts saying that the stone is worth at least $5 million, and that he is the Jade King of Yan'an City, known as Tan Lao. With great enthusiasm, Lao asks if a young man would like to sell the stone for $5 million. This man is the father of Zijian, Qin Li's friend. Qin says that he bought the stone for his wife and that they should ask her if she would like to sell it. Her friend is also very surprised by the value of this stone. Qin Yan admires her husband's gesture and thinks a bit more about their situation. She says that a specialist would know better how to precious stone, and it is an honor to meet her friend's father. Tan Lao is happy to buy the stone and says he will ask his secretary to send a check later. He also asks Qin Li to examine the stone he just bought that seemed very beautiful and full of jade. The young man says that unfortunately, this stone is just an ordinary one and has nothing special about it. No one can believe him, not even his wife, questioning how such a thing can be said since it was a stone selected by someone with great experience. Tan Lao says that although there are some jade stones embedded in the crust, you need to look inside and be sure. Ziyan begins to provoke Qin Li, saying that he had beginner's luck the first time. The stone is open, and it can be seen that there is no jade inside, so it has no value. Zijian says that her father was never wrong, but the Jade King remains unfazed, and says that Qin Li was right, and that they are still looking for people with a lot of experience in the jade field. If he is interested, he just needs to call. Qin Li starts to speak, but Tan interrupts and says he doesn't need an answer now and can decide later. Father and daughter start to leave, and Zijian asks if her father is sure about this. He says, of course, with certainty. After a while on the street, Qin Li and his wife are returning home by car. Qin Yin is still incredulous, asking since when he understands geology. The man hands her the check for the sale amount and says it's not very difficult. He learned from books and can teach her later. The girl snatches the check from his hand and slaps him, asking if he was lying, why he pretended to be mute and a loser. Qin Li begins to think about the answer. Thinking about a distant past, an image of an old man scratching his beard appears. This old man stands up and prepares to say something. The old man has such strong energy that it seems to burn with a blue aura aura around him. He speaks the following words, that as long as the teachings of the book are practiced, the boy will be 10 years ahead of his time, but he will need to block all his Kadai for 10 years. This is the boy's destiny, and the rest is up to him. After saying this, the man starts to disappear and says they will meet again in the future. This story is being told by Qin Li, who says he is not lying and is not a fool. Qin Yan doesn't quite understand and asks why he chose to marry her. The young man asks if she doesn't remember what happened in the past. During college, some of their students used to make fun of Qin Li, putting cigarette butts in his food and throwing soup in his face. With a quick slap, someone stops the cigarette butt from being thrown into Qin Li's plate. The young man is then defended by Qin Yan, who says that people shouldn't mess with the weaker ones. She can remember this story and when they met. This made Qin Li fall in love with her. When she proposed to him after university, he was very happy, but now he is sad to remember that their marriage is just a facade. The wife asks that he never had any resentment or regret towards her. Confidently, he responds that how could he have regretted anything since her family helped him when he needed it. The woman also helped him a lot, and in his heart, he always saw her as his wife. His cheeks begin to blush because opening his heart was not easy. Qin Yan feels good but doesn't know how to deal with it since her husband has changed so much recently. Despite liking each other a lot due to their complicated marriage, they cannot declare their feelings for each other. Qin Li continues saying that his clinic should open tomorrow and that his wife should go with him. She says she thought it was all a joke, but it seems serious. But saving lives is not as easy a job as he thinks. He says he is not treating any serious illnesses, just some more common issues, and she shouldn't worry. Very angry, Qin Yan says that if he goes to jail, no one will go to prison for him. Her husband is very sad with her response and the mistrust of his wife. The silence bothers her, but she only said it because she was worried about him. In a very beautiful shopping center is where the clinic's opening happens. Many people gather in front of the new clinic wishing good luck and with some festive balloons. Some people start to see what treatments they offer, and Qin Li's wife's whole family, who was at the dinner, is also there at the opening. One of the aunts starts to badmouth the young man, saying she didn't know he had become a doctor. The man next to her agrees, saying the clinic opened out of nowhere. Qin Li's father-in-law says there should be no concern because his son-in-law is a man with many secrets, and he even helped the mayor recently. Shen Wen starts to say that Qin Li shouldn't feel safe just because he is friends with the mayor, and how daring he is to open a clinic like this, and Lai responds sarcastically, saying he doesn't understand how a clinic can be dangerous to people. The cousin's husband keeps saying that the place will undergo a rigorous inspection because he works at the city hall. Finally, Mayor Liu and his wife Wan arrive at the location and are very happy to Qin Li. Qin Yan's uncles are very surprised to see that the mayor has so much affection for the young man. Shen Wen still can't believe it because the mayor is his boss, and looking at the way the mayor treats Qin Li, he can't understand the relationship between the two. Qin Li receives gifts from the mayor and his wife, then she adds that the place looks beautiful. Qin Yan is extremely angry because the whole family was speaking sarcastically about her husband, and now that the mayor has arrived, everyone has gone silent. Outside, we can hear some cries for help. A person is asking for their child to be saved, and everyone is curious to know what is happening and why they are screaming outside. Outside, you can see a worried father with a boy while the people around try to understand what is happening. Li tells the people to move away because he is a doctor and can help the boy. He starts to approach the boy, who is drooling a lot. The boy is foaming at the mouth while coughing and asking his father for help. Some of Qin's relatives say to take the person to the hospital, claiming you won't be able to cure him because he has a serious illness. The wicked aunt and her brother-in-law can only wait for a worse outcome, saying they want to see how Li will get out of this. The father desperately asks Qin for help, and the doctor begins to examine if the boy has any reaction, and asks to take him inside the clinic. Inside, everyone observes Qin Li's work closely, placing the boy on a stretcher to try to cure him. Sitting next to the boy, the young man begins to concentrate all of his energy and touches the boy's wrist to transfer it. The energy penetrates deeply into the boy's body, passing through all of his blood until it reaches his vital organs, and the boy's stomach is extremely damaged. The young man says the boy is poisoned and asks what the father has been feeding him lately. The father says it is impossible for him to be poisoned, that his neighbor takes care of a child, and that he has always been good to him. Qin Li's mother-in-law starts yelling, saying the father is incompetent and shouldn't leave the children with the neighbors. This makes the sick boy's father burst into tears and start crying, saying his wife died early and he has been saving money for his son's school. But the doctor can feel that from the symptoms, the weak breathing, and the boy's skin color turning black, it is definitely poisoning. A voice in the crowd stirs everyone up, saying the doctor from this clinic only got his diploma a few days ago, and how daring he is to open a clinic. Everyone is incredulous to know that he got the diploma recently and wants to know if it could all just be a setup. People around demand that the clinic be closed and that the boy be taken to the hospital. His wicked aunt and cousin are having fun watching the boy and the doctor struggling, but his wife is very nervous and swallows hard with the whole situation happening there. The sick boy's father becomes very nervous, stands up, and yells that if the doctor can't cure him, then he's just trying to hurt him. King gets angry with the situation and puts an end to it, saying that the boy's condition is critical and there is no time to waste. During a discussion, the boy starts coughing up blood, showing that his condition is getting worse and his life is at risk. Qin Li widens his eyes with surprise and determination and asks everyone to move away. He removes the sheet from the boy while the sick boy's father continues comforting him. Lee begins to work quickly, concentrating his energy to help the boy with his aura. He starts to visualize all the energy points of the human body so he can purify the boy's energy. He throws needles toward the sick boy and starts piercing all the boy's chakra points, saying their names: Sameng Swanji Star Tei Huagai Tebe Qianshu. When he finishes, the boy's mouth begins to fill to release everything that was intoxicating his body. He stands up and vomits a lot, dirtying his clothes in the stretcher where he was. The father can hardly believe that his son started moving again. With tears in his eyes, he hugs the boy and apologizes. The boy who was sick says he is very hungry and now wants to eat some fried pork. The father, still hugging the boy in tears, says, "It's okay, they can go eat now." Kin says the boy is fine, but if the father still has any doubts, he can go to the hospital for a general checkup. Very grateful, with hands together and still crying, the father thanks Kin Lee, saying he is a real doctor. Everyone is amazed at the young Lei's skill in saving the boy, and even though he is a newly graduated person, he has many abilities. We can see the old man who started raising doubts about the doctor walking towards a young man, and a person punching the wall in anger and grinding his teeth is Liu Ming Hao. The old man tells Liu not to worry, let him live a little longer. Soon he will make a mistake. Night falls and a man leaves the clinic happily, saying he can now have a child with his wife. The clinic lights are turned off and its door is closed. Kin is exhausted and begins to leave through the back door. He is going to close everything and go home, but he hears a rustling in the trees, something very strange at the back of the clinic. With a keen look, he notices that something is strange in the garden. He sees a knife completely covered in blood at the corner of the tree, and it scares him a lot. But what is there is a woman also covered in blood and with all her clothes torn, looking very injured. She says nothing and just keeps looking at Kin, who tries to ask if by chance she is there to see the doctor. Barely finishing his question, the woman starts advancing towards him very quickly, seeming like she is going to attack him. He puts his hands in front of him, trying to prevent a blow, and asks the woman to stop because he is the doctor there. But the woman halfway through starts to stagger and falls to the ground in front of Kin Lai. He can see more wounds on her body, and seeing the woman's situation, he cannot abandon her there and begins to prepare to work even more. Then he takes the woman inside the clinic and places her on a stretcher to start the treatment. After the woman is on the stretcher, she remains unconscious. Lai takes his phone out of his pocket and starts dialing a number. He is calling the two residents, but the phone rings for a while and no one answers. Until Kinian answers on the other side of the line, the doctor begins to explain that he had a very difficult patient. Lying in her bed, the wife asks if her husband is not coming back today and if he is staying in the clinic. He says yes, he will sleep at the clinic because there is still a lot of work to be done and that she does not need to wait for him to arrive. Kinian gets a little frustrated with this because she wanted to see her husband that day. She says he is very stupid for doing this. She starts yelling at him on the phone, saying that if he wants, he can work all day and live in the clinic for the rest of his life. Concerned about his wife's situation, the young man thinks that next time he will have to buy something to try to please her, maybe a present. Returning to focus on the injured woman, he opens his medical toolbox and starts working. The woman has many bullet wounds and cuts on her body. He starts removing the bullet he can. When the doctor goes to remove a necklace from the woman's neck with scissors, he notices the symbol on that necklace. It looks like a military identification pendant. He sees it belongs to the 19th Division of an elite group. How did that person end up in his clinic? Within the Chinese government and military, there are various special operations divisions. The MI-16 is composed of people specialized in stealing information. Some are hackers, weapons experts, and reverse engineering specialists, while others just secretly influence public opinion. But the MI-19 is the most special, says the woman who was injured on the stretcher in Kim Lee's clinic. She is the leader of a special forces team and commands her subordinates to advance on the mission. They are at the top of the building, illuminated only by the city's night lights. They jump towards the ground to start their special mission, and the voice runs through the woman's head, reminding her that the 19th Division must be exterminated. The order came from above. This memory shocks her, knowing she could die. She starts falling towards the ground and can't hold on. A scream of no can be heard, but it's just the woman waking up on the stretcher. Her wounds are already bandaged, and she sees that she is out of danger. The agent cannot believe she did not die and is still alive. Kim Lee was preparing some solutions and sees that she has finally woken up, so the girl asks if it was him who saved her. While pouring the solution onto a paper, he responds that if he had arrived 2 minutes later, he wouldn't have been able to do anything. The girl still trembles with pain from her injuries. She can barely get up from the bed she is in because it requires a lot of strength, and the pain is intense. Lai calmly asks where she is going while wrapping some packages. The girl, walking with great difficulty, says she has no home and doesn't know where she is going. Upon hearing the girl's response, Kim reflects on what was said, and then suggests that she stay there and that he needs a new assistant. The girl is surprised by the doctor's offer. He opens the window to let the daylight illuminate the room. The girl asks if she can and if she would be able to. The young man says yes, that every month he will pay an average of $5,000, and asks what she thinks of these terms. Perplexed by the doctor's help, she says she will do everything she can to help him, that if there is anything the young man needs to be done, she will do it for the doctor. The doctor says she needs to stay in the clinic to recover, but a very loud scream comes from the front asking Kim Lai to open the door. He goes towards the clinic and starts to open the door slowly, but the door is pushed with such force that it hits his face, and a girl calling for Kim Lai enters. enters. This girl is Zijin, and she asks the young man to accompany her. The doctor asks if she is very ill, because it is very early to go there. Zijin responds that he is the one who looks sick, saying she came to take them to a jewelry competition. Lai sees the tickets in Zijin's hand and takes them but doesn't understand what competition this is. She tells him to shut up and to go with her. The two move to the great palace of Yangsheng, Betting Palace. Upon arriving there, Zijin sees her father and is pulling Kim by the tie. Zijin's father, Mr. Tan, is very happy to see him. The two greet each other enthusiastically, and despite being anxious, Lai smiles and apologizes for keeping Mr. Tan waiting. Mr. Tan says there is no problem because he wants the young man's help with the jade stone competition. Kim doesn't understand very well and asks if the businessman wants the young man to be an advisor. Mr. Tan confirms this, saying he saw the young man's skill with his own eyes and wants his help. He continues explaining that this competition is divided into two parts. One is the bet where you buy a stone, and the other is cutting the stone to see what's inside. He also introduces Mr. Tan's other employees, Wang Chao, a man with a hat and mustache, Zhao Lin, a tall young man, and Lao Shu, a man with glasses. Zijin says that her father spent a lot on this competition, and that if they reach the top 3, Kim Lai will be rewarded. Mr. Tan confirms that if he helps win the competition, he will share 10% of his companies called Tan Chi. Zijin blackmails the man, saying that as she is the best friend of his wife, she can make up a lie about him. Afraid, Kim says he will try his best. They start heading to the central screen of the palace, where the announcements of the stones being sold are made. One of the young men asks with a bit of disdain if the young man is really going to choose that ordinary stone. With a smile on his face, Kim responds that since he is there, he would like to try his luck. Mr. Tan's oldest employee, Lao Shu, hands a gold card to the young and says that since he is in a good mood, he will leave him 1,000 riyas to try something. Kim Lai accepts but is a bit suspicious because Mr. Tan said he could spend millions. The employees mock and laugh at the rookie, saying that 1,000 is enough and he shouldn't insist further. They turn their backs and say that the young man cannot help that he is not qualified to choose the stones along with the other employees. Kim Lai looks at the gold card and laughs, imagining the possibilities. The sun continues to illuminate the beautiful palace where they are. The young man starts looking among the cheaper stones, many of them priced exactly at 1,000 riyas. Among these stones, one catches his attention because it has a blue glow and turns to see it better. The stone costs 2,000, but is emitting a lot of energy, being probably very valuable, and catches Kim Lai's attention. Kim Lai's eyes widened in astonishment upon spotting a stone that stood out from the rest. Some lady inquired if he was interested in buying the stone. The two men have a conversation about the stone, and they estimated it to be worth nearly $5 million, making their confident claims of victory pique Kim Lai's attention. Noticing Kim Lai's diverted attention towards the two men, the lady called out to him again. He was startled and embarrassed upon realizing that he had been so engrossed in the men's conversation that he had completely forgotten about the lady. The lady handed Kim Lai a card and explained that it was worth 50,000 and would cover the full price of the stone. He then waved his hand and replied saying that it's fine and accepted the card. Suddenly, a voice called out to Kim Lai from the crowd, leaving him wondering who it was. 3 guys with playful grins teased him and asked him what stone he had purchased and whether he thought he would win first place. Lao Shu, with a dismissive tone, suggested that he should go home and imply that not everyone could work for Mayor Tan. He replied confidently that he was not sure if the stone he bought was top-rated, but added that if it was not for Mr. Tan, he would not have even attempted. The mayor suddenly walked up to them and asked if they all had finished choosing their stones. Lao Shu, all brimming with confidence, declared to Mayor Tan that they could guarantee they would make it to the top 3 because they had got the best stones. Tan nodded in agreement and confirmed that they had indeed chosen the best 2 stones. He quietly thought to himself that the stone surface was exceptional and the quality inside should be equally impressive. Suddenly, one of the men recognized Mayor Tan, and it was Qian Zong who was holding a girl's waist. Zong, with a mocking smirk, addressed Tan saying he was confident to gamble again this time after Tan lost to him. Tan, with a touch of irritation, retorted that it was his own business how he spent his money. He burst into laughter at Tan's response. Qian Zong's voice was laced with amusement because he could not believe that Tan would get to the point where he now used new people to help him. With a sneer, Zong implied that Tan was resorting to new recruits because he had run out of reliable people at Tan Ki Jewelry. With a condescending tone, Zong suggested that Tan should simply pack his bags and leave before he suffered further humiliation. With a mocking laugh, Chen Zong told Tan that he had no room in the capital of Yangcheng and he should just go back to Yangcheng. Lao Shu, with reassuring words, told Mayor Tan to leave the matter to him and he would make sure that they would crush Qian Zong. The jade contest officially began, and the host, with a booming voice, announced to the participants to pay attention. The jade contest had numerous participants. After the participants got ready, the host then excitedly announced that it was time to start the stone gambling part of the contest. The one who would be hosting the jade contest competition would be Shinran. Shinran instructed all the contestants to come up to the stage and prepare themselves. Mayor Tan nervously asked Shin where stones he bought were. Chin obliged and showed the mayor the stones he bought that only cost 20,000. The 3 men burst into laughter when they saw the stone that Chin had bought. Lao Shu mockingly said that Chin had the nerve to show his garbage stone to them. Mr. Tan said to himself in disbelief that what price you can get from that garbage stone is nonsense. He then started to doubt Qin Li's abilities, thinking that he was wrong about what he thought about him. The MC, Shin Ran, shockingly announced that the first stone that had been cut was whole green. After the first stone, the second stone was also filled with a beautiful glass royal green. The bidding for the stones now started with large numbers, one after another. The number bid started with a loud shout at 30 million, then up to 45 million. Lao Shu was shocked and in disbelief that the bidding was already high when the competition had only just started. The competition had only just started, yet it was already intense. Jinran informed the competitors that the top prices were 63 million down to 42 million. She then announced the last contestant, which was Mayor Tan's stones. Mayor Tan willingly bought their own stones for this competition. Lao Shu was walking up the stage while holding the two big stones. He is then swallowed by nervousness and anxiety while cutting the stone, hoping that the stones Mayor Tan has bought are green. A wave of excitement rippled through the audience as they eagerly anticipated the reveal of the stone's hidden treasures. Mayor Tan, his face etched with worry, paced nervously, wondering what would be inside the stone. On the other hand, Qin Li, with an air of detached calm, muttered to himself that millions of dollars just went down the drain. The stones were sliced open, revealing their inside, and a collective gasp of anticipation swept through the audience. Everyone held their breath, hoping for a flash of green within. A wave of disappointment washed over the audience as they realized the stone's interior was nothing but a worthless piece of rock. The host and the others were in disbelief, saying, "How is it possible that the stone is just worthless?" They had wasted an amount of money that cost 5 million on stones. The audience erupted in laughter, mocking Mayor Tan's poor judgment. Even Qin Ran, the host, was stunned and couldn't believe that something that cost so much would turn out to be nothing. Qin Ran, sighing in disappointment, declared that the contestant from the Tanchi jewelry was a real letdown and a waste of money. "It's over" was in Mayor Tan's head as he experienced embarrassment. The MC, with a glimmer of hope in her eyes, announced that there may be a chance because one stone remained uncut. Mayor Tan, desperate to spare Qin Li further humiliation, tried to stop him from cutting the second stone. Qin Li smirked as he cut the stone open, knowing that it wouldn't be worthless this time. The stone was cut open, and the inside was imperial green. The host said that it's such an ordinary stone, yet it turned out to be imperial green. Everyone thought it was all over after they saw the first stone that had been cut earlier. Lao Ixu could not believe that something that cost $20,000 for a stone would actually be full green inside. He then added that Qin Li was just a lucky bastard. Mayor Tan, lost in his own thoughts, lamented that if the 5 million were in Qin Li's hands, then he would have been the one to bring victory to Tanchi jewelry. Shinran was completely baffled, watching as Qin Li continued to cut the jade, thinking that he was crazy and unable to understand his actions. The mayor could not help himself and now stood up, shouting at Qin Li to stop cutting the jade stone. Qin Li, unfazed by what everyone was saying about him cutting the stone, was still focused on getting the work done. Tan was now shocked by what he was about to see. Qin Li, with a dramatic flourish, sliced open the final stone, sending a wave of anticipation for the audience. Shinran's voice, trembling with astonishment, declared that the jade stone has jade inside it and also has a piece of blood, jade inside the green jade. She then, after that, also announced that the last piece of blood jade was sold for $1 billion. The crowd erupted in a frenzy of cheers, their voices echoing through the hall as they marveled at the incredible jade stone. Qin Li, holding the jade aloft, declared with unwavering confidence that this jade was the last belonging of Mr. Tan. Shin Ran then exclaimed with excitement that there was the rarest jade among all jades. She then added that the stone was so unique that it required 1,000 years to form. She even exaggerated that this jade was worth the same as someone's life, even hers. A wave of frenzy washed over the crowd as they screamed and shouted their bids, desperate to claim the jade stone for themselves. The man, taken aback, then confirmed that Qin Li had unearthed a blood jade, a gemstone of exceptional rarity. That was a long night with all of the auctions that had been happening. One morning, a sudden coughing fit racked an old man seated toward the back, his face contorting in discomfort. The man stated in his worried voice that his father was getting worse and worse. The old man began to speak, but abruptly stopped mid-sentence because of a violent coughing fit bloodstaining his lips. The panel went back to the auction, and the stone that had been cut by Qin Li was sold for $2 billion. Shinran then congratulated Tanchi Jewelry for winning the auction, bidding with a price of $2 billion. The crowd erupted in cheers for Qin Li and the mayor, who stood on the stage after winning the auction. The host declared that this auction was truly remarkable, with the winning bid of $2 billion setting a record that would likely never be broken. With a graceful bow, Mayor Tan conveyed his heartfelt appreciation to Qin Li, acknowledging his significant role in the events of the day. Tan expressed his gratitude to him, admitting that without his efforts, Tanchi Jewelry's reputation would have been tarnished. He then also apologized for previously questioning Qin Li's abilities. Qin Li expressed his gratitude to the mayor, assuring him that he had not taken his doubts personally and appreciated the mayor's kindness. The mayor, in a gesture of apology, offered him the proceeds from the jade sale. He was so stunned by the mayor's statement that he could not speak. Zijian interjected, declaring that he was a highly esteemed guest of the Tan family. She then further explained that by excelling in the jade contest, there was a chance that they could could secure a strong position in Jiang province. Suddenly, a voice called out to Qin Li from the crowd, and behind the speaker, there were several figures who appeared to be acting as bodyguards. It was revealed that the man's name was Jiang Zhen, and he called out to Qin Li to extend an invitation from the Jiang family, urging him to join them. Jiang Zhen presented him with an invitation card, which he readily accepted. The next day, Qin Li was in the car, looking at the invitation that he accepted, and the driver told him that they had arrived. It was a good evening when Qin Li arrived at the Jiang family's house. The Jiang family resided in a grand and beautiful mansion that was heavily guarded by a team of capable bodyguards. Qin Li was so stunned by the enormous house that he had to take a picture of it on his phone. One of the guards accompanied him as he went around the house. The guard then knocked at the door, indicating to the young master that Qin Li, whom they had invited, had arrived. Jiang Zhen, known as the young master, opened the door and wholeheartedly welcomed him. He commended Qin Li's performance at the Jade contest and then remarked that it had truly opened his eyes. Curious about the late-night invitation, Qin Li then asked Jiang Zhen what the occasion was for summoning him to the Jiang family estate. Jiang Zhen chuckled and replied that the invitation wasn't for anything significant, but he was simply curious about something. The young master was indeed intrigued by Qin Li's actions at the Jade contest and questioned him about his decision to continue carving the first jade. He also inquired if Qin Li was aware of the blood jade hidden within the jade stone. Qin Li responded honestly and explained that he felt a warmth emanating from the jade when he held it, and this unusual sensation made him suspicious. The jade stone made him suspicious and curious, which led him to cut the stone open. Zhen found his explanation amusing and then proposed that Qin Li should find him another jade stone. He was then interrupted by Jiang Gu's coughing, who had an intense illness. Qin Li's attention was diverted by Gu's cough, causing him to hesitate in his response to Jun. Gu, sensing Qin Li's gaze upon him, inquired if something about him seemed unusual. Qin Li was concerned for Jiang Gu's well-being and expressed that his condition was dire and that without treatment, it could turn out to be bad. The old man was taken aback by Qin Li's condition, even surprised that he possessed such expertise in medicine. He recently opened a clinic, as Qin Li said, and then politely asked if he would mind letting him check his pulse. Jiang Jun interrupted their conversation and expressed disbelief that Qin Li was a practitioner of traditional medicine. The old man, Jiang Gu, lamented that despite extensive searching, they had found no cure for his illness. Given Qin Li's medical expertise, Jiang Gu agreed to allow him to examine him. Qin Li then began to circulate his internal energy throughout his body. He realized with a start that the malevolent energy was on the verge of devouring Jiang Gu's vital essence. The internal energy of Qin Li surged forth from his body, dispelling the malevolent spells that had taken hold of Jiang Gu. After a thorough examination that lasted for an hour, Jiang Gu felt a noticeable shift in his condition, a change from his previous state. With a mix of shock and joy, Jiang Gu exclaimed that he felt significantly more comfortable after Qin Li's examination. Qin Li scratched his head, admitting that he had only managed to temporarily suppress Jiang Gu's condition and not cure it entirely. He continued, explaining that to eradicate Jiang Gu's illness, they needed to delve deeper and uncover the root cause within Gu himself. Jiang Jun interjected and emphasized that he had always been diligently caring for his grandfather and that Gu rarely ventured outside. However, Jiang Jun was unable to complete his thought. Qin Li pondered for a moment while stroking his chin thoughtfully. He then inquired of Jiang Gu if he had recently come into possession of any valuable treasures. Gu contemplated the question for a moment, but before he could respond, Jiang Jun interjected, revealing that his grandfather had indeed received a treasure, which was a jade pillow. His suspicions about the jade pillow intensified. He believed it was likely unearthed from a tomb and could be the source of Gu's illness. He also added that if it is used long-term, it can cause death to the person who is using it. Jiang Gu, startled by his deduction, confirmed his suspicions and added that he had been experiencing an unusual coldness while sleeping on the jade pillow. Jiang Jun, with his voice filled with awe and astonishment, praised Qin Li. He exclaimed that his grandfather had been ailing for a long time, and he could not believe that Qin Li was a doctor given his remarkable insight. The son of Gu declared that regardless of whether Qin Li could find him the blood jade or not, the Jiang family would grant any request he had, no matter how grand. He was touched by Jiang Jun's generosity, but he insisted that saving lives was his duty as a doctor. He added that he would diligently search for the blood jade, but he had only one request for Jiang Jun in return. Jiang Jun, with unwavering confidence, assured Qin Li that the Jiang family would do everything in their power to assist him. He then presented a cherished photograph of himself as a child with his parents. With a hint of sadness in his voice, he explained that they had been missing for 10 years, and he had yet to receive any news of their whereabouts. Jiang Jun carefully took the picture from Qin Li's hand. With a determined look, Jiang Jun then promised that it might take time, but he would do everything in his power to find his parents. A glimmer of hope flickered in Qin Li's eyes as he replied that he's counting on Jiang Jun's ability. in return for Jung Jun's help. He then assured him that he would find the blood jade, and he'd send it to him when he carefully finds one. Jung Jun expressed his gratitude to him, and then handed him a card containing 200 million. He then added that it was an advance payment once Qin Li had found a blood jade, and that he would be truly grateful. He accepted the card, then shook hands with Jiang, and assured him that he'd be back to him when he found one. Their conversation ended with Jiang thanking Qin Li for his request. A wave of worry washed over Jung Jun as he contemplated the future if their Jiang family regained its former glory. The sun shone brightly the next morning as Qin Li, still slightly drowsy from sleep, made his way back to his clinic, saying that he was glad to be back and that the doctor's clinic would need someone to look after him while he was gone. As he stepped into his clinic, there was a patient who was already waiting for him, saying that he had been experiencing headaches lately and wanted Qin Li to check on him. Still half awake, Qin Li mumbled that he should come with him so that he could examine his body. Suddenly, a loud voice from behind announced that Mr. Tang Bahuya, the family's founder, would be visiting the clinic that day. The man also added that no one should miss the chance because the quality was guaranteed. The old man who was with Qin Li was shocked and recognized Mr. Tang, who was the best traditional Chinese doctor in their city. Mr. Tang mockingly replied that the old man was correct, and then added that their century-old medical school could not compare to some other medical clinic. The old man rushed to Mr. Tang, leaving Qin Li behind, and then said that he would sign up for Mr. Tang as a patient. Mr. Tang inaccurately spread some fake lies to the old man about Qin Li's fake medicines. The old man was in disbelief about what Mr. Tang had said to him, and the fact that he was almost going to be a patient of Qin Li. Qin Li approached them with a scary look, saying that Mr. Tang did not think of the consequences of spreading lies about him. The old man and Mr. Tang exchanged nervous glances, realizing the gravity of their actions. Mr. Tang then answered in a shaky and stammering voice that he had just only heard about it somewhere else. Suddenly, an old man interrupted them, saying that Qin Li should not argue with an apprentice like Mr. Tang. The old man turned out to be the owner of Tang's Chinese medicine, saying that as a doctor, Qin Li doesn't have the patience to argue. The owner says that he has been practicing medicine for decades, and he cannot believe that young people these days are calling themselves traditional Chinese medicine practitioners. He then said to the sick old man that he'll help him get better from his illness. The sick old man removed his hat, revealing a shocking sight. His head was covered in numerous circular infections. The sick man, with his face flushed with embarrassment, hesitantly asked the doctor if he could cure him. The doctor, in disbelief because of what he just saw, exclaimed that this is the first time he has seen a disease like this in his decades of practice. The owner of Tang's Chinese medicine was hesitant about what he was supposed to say, trying to calm down while finding the cure for the man's disease. Qin Li then interfered, saying what was the right way to disease and that it needed to be treated with a hot needle. He also added that if the disease was not treated or handled right, it could endanger the man's life. The doctor, known as the owner, shouted at him and told him not to teach him something, coming from someone like Qin Li about how to cure a disease. The infection was poked by a needle because of the doctor, but Qin Li shouted at him, saying that he should stop. He then loudly explained that it is a variant of viral herpes, and that you cannot just puncture the infection. The sick old man fell to the ground as soon as needle punctured the infection and screeched in pain. The old doctor was bewildered and could not believe what was happening to the sick old man. He hurriedly came to help the old man on the floor. However, the old doctor did not let Qin Li interfere with his work on his patient. Qin Li, his anger boiling over, slapped the old doctor hard across the face for his arrogant outburst. He was so angry at the old doctor and stated that people like him who treat patients like a tool do not deserve to be called a doctor. His eyes narrowed in focus as he grabbed a needle. As he channeled his energy into it, he muttered to himself that the vital energy had been disrupted. He wasn't sure if it was too late to save the old man. The poison had already spread, making it incredibly difficult to treat. Old man Tang's mishandling of the needles had worsened the patient's condition. The internal cold had invaded his heart and relentlessly drained his vital energy. It implied that Qin Li had exhausted all other options and was now resorting to a risky or unconventional method to save the patient. Qin Li was using some kind of energy or magic to heal the patient. He focused his gaze and used his healing abilities to puncture each of the bubbly disease formations one by one, effectively eradicating the illness. He then let out a sigh of relief, his tension finally easing as he saw the old man's condition improve. The treatment had been successful. With the old man now recovering, Qin Li then turned to the doctor and irritably said that he had been a disgrace to traditional Chinese medicine. The doctor scowled with anger after what Qin Li had said to him. The old doctor, his face contorted with fury, called Qin Li a bastard and asked him if he was challenging him. Qin Li then turned around with the look of someone who finds the old doctor's words entertaining. He then challenged him about saving lives, and whoever was the first to make a mistake would forever leave traditional Chinese medicine. The two men, their eyes locked in a silent challenge, found the whole situation oddly exhilarating. With a confident smirk, Qin Li accepted the old doctor's challenge without hesitation. The day the challenge arrived, a massive crowd gathered at a curiosity peak by the unusual spectacle. Whispers filled the air, everyone wondering what could possibly draw such large crowds. One member of the crowd explained that Qin Li's clinic was going to compete against the renowned doctor from Yangcheng in a public demonstration of their healing skills. The treatment of various diseases would be the focus of this challenge. Anticipation crackled through the crowd as they buzzed with excitement. The challenge challenge promised to be a thrilling spectacle, and everyone was eager to see who would emerge victorious. As the sun began its descent, casting long shadows across the gathering, the challenge commenced. Qin Li stood ready to treat his patients while his rival from Yangcheng tended to his own group of hopefuls. A long line of eager patients snaked its way through the courtyard of the Yangcheng doctor's clinic, each hoping for a chance to be healed by the renowned physician. One of Qin Li's patients, beaming with gratitude, spoke highly of the doctor's skills, describing how much better they felt after receiving his treatment. The other patients of Qin Li, witnessing his skill firsthand, were equally impressed. They could not believe that such a young doctor could possess such a profound understanding of medicine. The Yangcheng doctor, a seasoned veteran with over 3 decades of experience, remarked that it had taken him years to achieve his mastery of medicine, that Qin Li, a relative newcomer, had displayed flawless skill from the very beginning, making not a single error. The Yangcheng doctor, intrigued by Qin Li's talent, gestured to one of his assistants to approach Qin Li. The Yangcheng doctor was preparing to examine his next patient and was taken aback by the unusual and complex ailment he encountered. Shock and surprise registered on his face as he realized the severity of the disease he just saw. The assistant, who had been sent to observe Qin Li, was now next in line, waiting her turn to be treated by the young doctor. The men standing in line behind the assistant were captivated by her beauty. She then expressed her recent symptoms of dizziness and swelling in her chest. However, the assistant's words were laced with suspicion, as if she was testing Qin Li's skills with a fabricated ailment. The assistant grabbed Qin Li's hands and was about to put them on her chest, while saying that she could not take the pain anymore. Qin Li then withdrew his hand from her and told her that he would check her pulse first, so there was no need to worry. He began to diagnose her pulse with his skilled fingers and abilities, tracing the delicate rhythm. The assistant, in a gesture of trust, gently caressed his hand with her own, urging him to examine her thoroughly. The assistant's pulse was steady and strong, which made Qin Li find it strange that even her organs were placed correctly, so it didn't seem like a disease either. He was intensely focused on the assistant's pulse, but was then startled by a piercing scream that erupted from the Yangcheng doctor's position. The source of the scream was a man who had collapsed to the ground, writhing in pain. The Yangcheng doctor's assistants rushed to his side, while urgently inquiring about his well-being. The man's mouth began to foam, sending the assistants into a frenzy. They quickly initiated CPR, while others frantically called for an ambulance to transport the stricken man to the hospital. While witnessing the unfolding chaos, the Yangcheng doctor was stunned. He felt a growing sense of dread, realizing that he might be outmatched by Qin Li, who could potentially treat the man while he was powerless to do so. The assistants continued contacting the urgent care center in panic. The patients who had been waiting in Yangcheng's line had witnessed his inability to help the collapsed man and lost faith in his abilities. They began to switch sides, flocking to Qin Li's clinic, convinced that he was the more reliable doctor. The assistant observed the shift in allegiance towards Qin Li and then began to formulate a plan. She realized that she needed to act quickly to regain some of the lost ground, which is why she suddenly acted as if she was dizzy and then pretended to collapse. The next patient in line, upon seeing the girl collapse, panicked and exclaimed that she needed immediate medical attention. Yangcheng's doctor was attempting to regain his composure and warned Qin Li not to get complacent. He pointed out that Qin Li now had his own patient who had collapsed, implying that the situation was not as clear-cut as it seemed. The Yangcheng doctor was seeking to maintain some semblance of control, and then added that if Qin Li failed to treat the collapsed woman, the challenge would be considered a draw. He was determined to salvage something from the situation, even if it meant a stalemate. Qin Li, recognizing the woman's act, devised a singular solution. He then grabbed a long and sharp metal stick, declaring it the only tool capable of achieving the desired outcome. While wielding the metal stick, he warned that a misplaced prick could potentially cripple the woman. As Qin Li began his countdown, the woman, despite her initial act, felt a growing sense of unease. The impending threat they'd fabricated was beginning to feel real. The woman, unable to bear the mounting tension, abruptly stood up and sheepishly admitted that she was not sick. She attempted to mask her embarrassment with a forced chuckle. She confessed that she had been sent by Dr. Tang while pleading with Qin Li to release her. Qin Li, with a triumphant air, declared to Dr. Tang that he had lost the challenge. He pointed out that Dr. Tang's inability to treat one of his patients had resulted in his defeat. The elderly doctor, his voice laced with anger, reminded Qin Li of his esteemed reputation as Yangcheng's most renowned doctor. He then also bragged that Yun Luzhang had to make concessions to him. He glared at the old doctor, his hatred palpable, while implying what kind of doctor would use tricks to sabotage the competition. Qin Li's accusations of sabotage against the old called into question the doctor's integrity and his standing in the medical community. The old man's voice crackled with fury as he vowed revenge, promising Qin Li that this day would be etched in his memory. One morning, Qin Li removed his lab coat, his mind still reeling from the encounter as he stepped into the clinic. panic. Suddenly, the girl he'd saved appeared, her eyes flashing with fierce determination, and asked him if he wanted her to deal with that old man. Chin Li's eyes fell upon the girl, and he asked if she was feeling well enough to be back on her feet. The girl expressed her gratitude for his concern and assured him that she was well. She further indicated that he should not hesitate to ask for her assistance if needed. He assured her that she would make a full recovery from her injuries under his care at his clinic. Chin Li mentioned that he would have a task for her to complete in a few days' time. Out of nowhere, his phone started ringing, cutting him off mid-sentence. He answered the phone, and the girl speaking on the line mentioned that Mr. Zhang had entrusted her to provide him with information about the source of the raw gemstones. She emphasized that the delivery of the precious stones to Yangsheng was expected to occur within the next week. The caller indicated that she got another matter to discuss with Chin Li, one that she believed would be advantageous to him. The girl's words intrigued him, and he wanted to meet and discuss them in person. Later, it showed that she had just gotten out of the shower and then texted him the details about when and where to meet. At Tang Bovel's home, the television blared a news report about a medical sparring competition that had taken place in Yangsheng the previous day. The news report declared that Tang Bovel, the proprietor of Tang's Chinese medicine, had suffered a defeat and was subsequently retiring from the medical field. The news report further stated that the Tang family had faced an unprecedented level of public scrutiny. Enraged by the news report concerning his family, Dr. Tang, who was watching television, angrily ordered the staff to switch it off. A voice suddenly called out from beyond the door, inquiring about Mr. Tang's presence. With a tone of annoyance, Mr. Tang declared that the person seeking entry would not find what they were looking for inside. The person at the door offered Mr. Tang a deal, saying they could help him get revenge on Chin Li. Intrigued by the man's proposal, they allowed him to enter the residence. Mr. Tang's jaw dropped in astonishment as he realized the identity of the man who had just entered his home. Ming Hao asserted to Mr. Tang that he was the only one capable of seeking retribution against Chin Li while handing a paper to him. Upon examining the document presented to him, Mr. Tang was taken aback and inquired about the nature of the prescription it contained. A sky was overcast with clouds as Chin Li stretched his limbs and casually asked his assistant if she would like to accompany him for a walk in the fresh air. He mentioned that a leisurely stroll could aid in her recovery process. Chin Li expressed his hope that she would successfully complete the assignment he had entrusted to her. She politely declined the invitation to walk and expressed gratitude for his concern. The girl also assured Chin Li that she was feeling well and pledged to fulfill the assigned task. He scratched his face, saying that the task was just simply to buy an apartment. Later, on a sunny day, they decided to go for a walk together. Chin Li called Liang King out of the blue as she just stared at him, waiting to hear what he had to say. He was suddenly curious about her, so he asked how old she was when she started training and asked about her parents. King responded in a frigid tone, stating that she had been raised in a training camp since the age of 3 and that she doesn't remember anything regarding her parents. A memory surfaced, revealing Liang King in the past while clutching a knife. He then felt a pang of sympathy for her, silently acknowledging the hardship she must have endured to join the army at such a tender age. Moved by compassion for Liang King, he advised her to discontinue sleeping on the floor. Without a moment's pause, King readily agreed to his proposal. A sudden commotion and a peculiar sight in the bustling street caught Chin Li's attention, diverting his gaze from his companion. The shop was an antique emporium filled with unusual artifacts that drew his attention, and he curiously picked up an antique dagger. The dagger looked aged and tarnished, which prompted Liang King to inquire if Chin Li intended to purchase it. The antique dealer explained that he had stumbled upon the dagger serendipitously and offered to sell it for $500. Finding the price agreeable, Chin Li accepted the dagger. Intrigued by Chin Li's choice of the dagger, Liang King inquired if it possessed any particular value or significance. Chin Li assured her that the answer would be revealed shortly as he produced a lighter from his pocket. He then ignited the lighter, holding the dagger above the flame while simultaneously channeling magical energy from within. The heat from the flame worked its magic and slowly dissolved the layers of rust that had obscured the dagger's true beauty. With their veil being lifted, the dagger's intricate design and gleaming surface began to reveal themselves, shimmering in the firelight. King was astonished by what she witnessed, realizing that the dagger was no ordinary weapon. Having completed his task, Chin Li presented the dagger to King, inquiring if she found it to her liking, and then declared it hers. Overwhelmed with disbelief, Li and King expressed their gratitude to the boss with a radiant smile. At that moment, Chin Li's phone began to ring, signaling an incoming call. While Liang King honed her skills with the dagger, Chin Li answered the phone call. The sound of sobs filled the air, her voice trembling with fear as she relayed the devastating news. Zit and their friend had been taken, and the weight of their loss felt crushing. The weight of the news settled upon Chin Li, and his face was etched with concern. He bid farewell to Liang King and provided her with a card to locate a suitable residence, hastily revealing the access code. Liang King received the card with a touch of uncertainty and inquired if she had the freedom to select her own house. As Chin Li sprinted away, he expressed his confidence in Liang King's judgment regarding the selection of a house. Returning to the call, he reassured Chin Li, urging her to remain calm and provide him with the specifics of the situation. As the sun dipped below the horizon, a vibrant scene unfolded at the suburban racing circuits. Numerous individuals gathered with their vehicles and appeared to be enjoying themselves. The man ripping Zitin's hair despair, launched into a tirade, accusing her of sole responsibility for her predicament and insulting her. Zitin winced in pain as the man's grip tightened on her hair, and her bound hands rendered her helpless as she sat on the ground. The man, revealed to be Zitin's former romantic partner, Fang Xiao, continued his verbal assault, demanding her obedience and subservience. He further admonished her, instructing her to cease any attempts at provocation and to abandon any pretense of innocence. Fang said he liked Zitin and also wanted her family's money. Zitin's voice, trembling with anger, cut through the air like a whip as she shouted that Fang was indeed shameless. One of the guys pointed something out to Fang, and when he looked, he was shocked. A vehicle pulled up, and a man emerged carrying a suitcase. The man, identified as Chin Lai, declared his purpose for arriving, stating that he had come to settle the ransom payment. One of the guys smirked and told Fang that Chin Lai seemed like the right guy. Despair washed over Zitin as she contemplated the futility of Chin Lai's arrival. She questioned his ability to rescue her, considering his perceived inadequacies and the overwhelming odds he faced. Fang stood right in front of him and said it had been a tough trip for him to get there. Then Fang further instructed him to put the money on the ground and leave. Chin Lai harbored the belief that fulfilling the ransom demand would secure Zitin's release. He then questioned Fang's lack of moral scruples, inquiring about their disregard for the ethical implications of kidnapping. A wave of mocking laughter rippled through the group, their eyes gleaming with cruel amusement. One of the guys said Chin Lai was a joke to them. Fang approached him, remarking on the Chu family's audacious decision. Fang further declared his intention to acquire both Zitin and the monetary payment while blowing smoke in Chin Li's face. With a sharp snap of his fingers, Fang directed one of his associates to retrieve the money. A member of the group retrieving the money in Chin Li's presence informed him that his journey had been in vain and that he could return home. One of the men assured him that they would ensure Zitin's safety, hinting at their intention to exploit her sexually. Chin Lai delivered a powerful kick, sending the man soaring through the air. As he flew, a shower of money rained down around them. Fang's eyes widened in shock and let out a furious curse directed at Chin Lai. Then he orders to his men and demanded they take care of him. Chin Li's body pulsed with radiant energy, his powers surging. The men saw their chance and then launched a coordinated attack, converging on him all at once. He unleashed a flurry of powerful punches and kicks, each strike precise and devastating. The men were overwhelmed by his strength and began to fall one after another, unable to withstand his onslaught. A man, taking advantage of Chin Li's focus, lunged for behind while screaming for a challenge. Chin Lai was momentarily surprised but reacted with lightning speed. He spun around, delivering a powerful kick to the man's back, sending him crashing to the ground. The remaining men, terrified by Chin Li's overwhelming power, turned and fled. Fang watched the scene unfold, staring in disbelief because he couldn't comprehend Chin Li's strength. Chin Lai then advanced toward Fang, his gaze unwavering. With a swift and powerful movement, he shoved Fang to the ground, sending him crashing onto the hard surface. Chin Li's body thrown with energy, his powers radiating outward. His eyes were fixed on Fang and his fist was drawn back, poised to deliver a devastating blow to his face. Fang, upon seeing the impending punch aimed at his face, desperately pleaded with Chin Lai to spare him. Chin Lai was unmoved by Fang's pleas and showed no mercy. He launched his fist forward with full force, connecting with Fang's face in a devastating blow. Zitin watched the scene unfold, her eyes wide with disbelief. She could not reconcile the powerful figure before her with the seemingly useless man she knew. Chin Lai stood alone, his body radiating power, a beacon of strength amidst the fallen. The men lay scattered around him, defeated and unable to rise. Zitin, her mind reeling from what she had witnessed, couldn't help but ask herself when her brother-in-law had become so powerful. Chin Lai let out a sigh of relief because the fight had ended with him winning. Then his gaze fixed on Zitin, and he began to untie the ropes binding her, his movements swift and efficient. They were in a hurry so that Zitin's family would not worry more. As Chin Li worked to free Zitin from her bonds, she suddenly winced, her voice laced with pain. They sat off, their footsteps echoing in the quiet surroundings. Zitin, overwhelmed with gratitude, struggled to find the right words to express her thanks to Chin Lai. His actions had saved her, and she was at a loss for words. Zitin's cheeks flushed with a mixture of shyness and gratitude, and she hesitantly called out to Chin Lai. He turned around with a curious expression, waiting to hear what she had to say. Her fingers nervously tucked a stray strand of hair behind her ear as she summoned her courage and extended an invitation to Chin Lai. To mask her shyness, Zitin quickly added that the invitation was for her protection, as she feared the men might come for her again. She embarrassingly said that was the only reason Chin Lai should come with her. Chin Lai found her invitation unexpected and did not think she would invite him to a sorority. She suddenly sulked, worrying that Chin Lai might misinterpret her invitation. Chin Lai, and his expressions softening with understanding, accepted her invitation with a smile. The following day, Chin Lai returned to the clinic and sought out Chin. He needed to discuss the task he had assigned her and to ensure that she was making progress and that everything was on track. Chin, her expression composed, reported to him that she had successfully completed the task he had given her. In a professional manner, Chin informed Chin Lai that he could review the completed completed task at the Tanhao office later that day. Chin Lai was genuinely impressed by the speed with which Lion King had completed the task. He talked to himself with relief, saying that it was time to give Chin Yin a home. He felt the sense of responsibility for her well-being, and providing her with a safe and independent space was a priority. He then invited Lion King to go with him to check on the house that had been picked. Chin Lai and Lion King were settled in the car, ready for their house hunting adventure. As the car pulled away, he let out a long yawn and his eyes drooped slightly, but suddenly his phone rang. He answered his phone, expecting a routine call. It was Zhao and Jen on the other end, his voice brimming with excitement, saying that he had some good news for him. Jen gently watered the vibrant plants as he chatted with Chin Lai on the phone. His muse left Chin Lai sputtering, a surprised cough escaping his lips. It seemed like Zhao and Jen had gone above and beyond, exceeding even Chin Li's expectations with his ambitious purchase. Realizing that his words had left Chin Lai in shock, he quickly reassured him that the stores were still undergoing renovation. Chin Lai, still reeling from the news, decided to express his gratitude to Zhao and Jen for his efforts instead of dwelling on the surprise. He praised him and called him a great benefactor to the Jiang family. Jen also expressed his eagerness for Chin Li's arrival in Jiangcheng and waited patiently for the moment they could reunite. Jen went on to say that upon Chin Li's return from Jiangcheng, he would be gifting him a luxurious villa as a token of his appreciation. Chin Li politely declined Zhao and Jen's generous offer, explaining that he would not let him waste his money. He had already purchased a villa for himself, which made Zhao and Jen's gift unnecessary. He and his assistant arrived at the opulent Sky One villa and were greeted warmly by the staff. One of the staff members approached Liang King curiously, asking why he wasn't with her. Liang King, however, pointed out that the man beside her was her boss, and Chin Lai was the very person who had purchased the luxurious Sky One villa. The staff member, judging by his appearance, could not quite believe he was the one who had bought Sky One. She was hesitant and unsure if he was truly the owner of such a lavish property. The staff member remained convinced that the man in front of her was likely a poor man trying to appear wealthy. She believed Mr. Jiao, another potential buyer, would be more likely to purchase the villa and would probably give her a $500,000 gift in return. Determined to steer Chin Li away, she began to lie, claiming that the villa he had ordered had already been sold. She insisted they leave and promised to return their deposit. King protested, pointing out that she was the one who had paid the deposit in advance. She continued to complain and question why the staff would resell the villa to another buyer, despite them coming first. The staff member, looking down on him, declared that the villa should be reserved for someone more distinguished. Liang King and Chin Li were becoming increasingly irritated by the staff member's comments. Finally speaking, Chin Li questioned the staff member about the level of credibility they upheld at Qian Hao. The staff member, unfazed by Chin Li's words, continued to discriminate against him, insisting that he was merely pretending to be wealthy. She told him in a dismissive tone that they were not qualified to live in their villa at Qian Hao. Suddenly, a woman behind them interrupted their conversation and asked if what the staff had said was true. The girl, revealed to be Jiang Chuxiu, stepped forward and challenged the staff member's claim that Qian Hao only served guests of noble and high status. The staff member, taken aback by Jiang Chuxiu's intervention, seemed to want to retract her previous statements. Enraged by the staff member's discriminatory remarks, Xiuzhu delivered a resounding slap across her face. As she slapped the staff member, she declared that Mr. Chin Li was their most distinguished guest. Following the confrontation, Jiang Chuxiu approached Chin Li and introduced herself, mentioning that she had seen him at Jiang Zheng's residence. She also revealed that she was the one he had contacted on the phone regarding the source of the raw stone. Chin Li was slightly taken aback when he realized that she was the voice on the other end of the phone call. She apologized to him for the staff member's rude behavior and the inconvenience that had caused him. After Chuxiu apologized, Chin Li reassured her that it was fine. The staff member, still reeling from the slap, was astonished to witness Chin Li's familiarity with Chuxiu. His voice, laced with disappointment, addressed the staff member, saying not to attempt something like that again. The staff member, still on the floor, quickly apologized and promised not to repeat her actions. Chin Li, in his frustration evident, declared that they would only return once all the necessary procedures for the villa were finalized. Visibly embarrassed, the staff member apologized again and promised to personally oversee the completion of the villa's arrangements. The remaining staff members bowed respectfully as Chin Li and his assistant turned to leave. With a sharp snap of her fingers, Jiang Chuxiu signaled her bodyguards to remove the staff member from her presence. She made it clear that she wanted no further interaction with the woman. The bodyguards swiftly obeyed, their grip firm as they pulled the staff member away. Despair and disbelief were etched across her face as she was dragged from the scene. Later that day, a chaotic scene unfolded in front of Chin Li's clinic, with police officers and concerned patients forming a large and agitated crowd. A woman with visible and severe injuries stood amidst the crowd, her voice laced with anger. She accused the clinic of selling counterfeit medication, claiming that it was the cause of her disfigurement. Several other women, their faces similarly marred, echoed the young woman's accusations. They all claimed that after taking medication from the clinic, their faces had been disfigured. The women's voices rose in unison, accusing the doctor of being unscrupulous, a fraud, and indifferent to the well-being of his patients. As Chin Li arrived at his clinic, he was met with a scene of chaos. A large crowd had gathered outside, and he could not help but wonder when it caused such a commotion. Spotting him, the young woman who had been shouting accusations pointed directly at him and declared him to be the fraudulent doctor responsible for selling counterfeit medication. The other people in the crowd turned their gazes toward Chin Li, their expressions a mixture of anger and disbelief. The young woman's voice rose in intensity, demanding that he be arrested. The woman pointed a finger directly at Chin Li, her voice sharp and accusatory. Completely bewildered by the situation, he looked at the woman with a mix of shock and confusion, seeking the right answer about the fake medicines she mentioned. The woman, her face marred, pointed accusingly at Chin Li. It was his skincare products, she claimed, that had caused the damage. He stroked his chin thoughtfully, and then a wave of realization washed over him. It was the skincare products he had given to Li Wan. He might have a lead on what was happening in the clinic. More women, their faces bearing similar signs of damage, joined the chorus of accusations. They pointed at Chin Li, calling him a swindler who had preyed on their desire for beauty, stolen their money, and left them with permanent scars. The women, unified in their anger, turned to the police and demanded that they arrest the fake doctor. One of the police officers stepped forward, his voice firm and authoritative, saying that Chin Li should come with them. Li and Chin, with a sudden burst of action, stepped in front of him, shielding him from the arresting officers. The police officer, unfazed by Li and Chin's intervention, responded that Chin Li should be questioned by the police department. Chin Li, on the other hand, remained calm and unfazed by what was happening around him. The police officer barked at Chin Li, his voice sharp, commanding him to put his hands up and not move. With a quick movement, Chin Li pulled out his phone and displayed it to the officers. He explained that he was on a call and seeking a witness to clear his name regarding the skincare product issues. The police officers exchanged confused glances, but one of them reached out and took the phone. Identifying himself, the police officer explained the situation to the person on the other end of the line, detailing the accusations surrounding the skincare products. Una's voice, sharp and irritated, erupted from the phone, saying that it was simply impossible because she also used Cancun's skincare products. Minutes ticked by, each one adding to the growing tension at the clinic. Suddenly, a woman emerged from the crowd. It turned out to be the same woman on the phone who had raced to the scene of the commotion at the clinic. The woman, irradiating cheerful energy despite the tense situation, hopped out of her car and asked Chin Li if he had any new skincare products. The police and others turned their gaze to the woman who had just appeared. Chin Li, with a hint of exasperation in his voice, replied that what she was thinking was impossible. The woman, revealed to be Liu Wan, gestured toward her lovely face, proudly announcing that she had used up all of her previous skincare products. She also mentioned that she believed Chin Li had developed a new kind of ointment. Turning to those who had used Chin Li's products, the woman questioned whether they could afford the cost of his new ointment. Those who had once considered themselves victims of Chin Li's products were now too embarrassed to speak. One of the police officers questioned the woman and asked if her claims made over the phone were accurate. Liu Wan asserted her credibility as a lawyer, handing the police her card and stating that she would never lie. One of the police officers acknowledged Liu Wan's statement and glanced at her lawyer's card. They assured her that they would thoroughly investigate the matter. The police emphasized that anyone found to be lying would face legal consequences. Those who had used the ointment were stunned by the police's statement and remained speechless. The police suspected the victims were concealing information and demanded they tell the truth about what had transpired. One of the women kneeling before the police pleaded for the opportunity to reveal the truth. The woman began to speak and revealed that a man named Tang had provided them with she continued telling the truth, and added that Tang had offered them a bribe of $100,000 if they accused Chin Li's clinic. Chin Li wasn't overly surprised to learn that Tang was behind the commotion. On a sunny day at Tang's residence, Tang and Ming Hao were engaged in a chess game. Mr. Tang complimented Ming Hao's chess skills and then inquired if he was going to kill that kid. Ming Hao praised Dr. Tang, remarking on his amazing ability to create an ointment that caused pimples to appear on the women's faces within half an hour. Their laughter continued until a sudden doorbell interrupted them. Mr. Tang, curious about the visitor, stood up and asked the person outside to tell him who they were. He peered through the peephole, but the figure outside turned out to be Chin Li. Chin Li, with a swift kick, sent the door flying open. The force of his kick sent Mr. Tang tumbling across the floor. His body slammed against the wall, leaving Ming Hao stunned by the unfolding scene. Chin Li strode into the room, his powerful presence filling the space. With a mocking tone, he told Dr. Tang that he had a serious injury and wanted him to take a look. Ming Hao was bewildered because Chin Li was supposed to be in police custody, but here he was. Then Liu grabbed something in his pocket. Chin Li now realized that Ming Hao was the one responsible for all the commotion. He yelled at him, confirming his suspicions. With a pointed gun, he made it clear he knew the truth. Li and Chin charged towards Ming Hao, her fist cocked and ready to strike. Her punch connected with his face, sending him flying backward and causing his body to crash against the wall with a thud. With her face and voice laced with anger, she asked Liu Ming Hao if he was to play with something like a gun. Qin Li advanced towards Liu Ming Hao, and his approach sent a shiver of fear down Ming Hao's spine. His voice was calm and steady as he assured Liu Ming Hao that he was simply checking if he was still capable of movement. After a long day, both Dr. Tang and Liu Ming Hao were arrested. They were accused of bribing multiple women and using counterfeit medications. A police officer acknowledged their earlier mistake and apologized to Qin Li for doubting and wrongly accusing him. He assured Qin Li that he would face no further trouble. Qin Li dismissed their apologies, simply stating that they were only doing their job. Meanwhile, in the back of the car, Dr. Tang and Liu Ming Hao sat listening to the stern lecture from the police officer. As the car carrying the two accused men pulled away, Qin Li suddenly received a message. The message was from Jiang Chuxiu, informing Qin Li that his new residence was ready. She apologized for the inconvenience of the villa situation and had reserved a place for him at the Merlin residence. He replied that he had work later that afternoon and would leave the matter of the two men to his assistant, Liang King. Liang King assured him that she would handle the situation. Afterwards, he went to the Jiang residence to discuss the villa with Jiang Chuxiu. The meeting place was bustling with people engaged in conversations. Qin Li arrived at the designated room and knocked on the door. Jiang Chuxiu opened the door and greeted him with a warm welcome. The meeting room was of moderate size with only Jiang Chuxiu, Qin Li, and a single man seated in a chair. She offered Qin Li a cup of French black tea, a new arrival that had been delivered earlier that day, and she would like him to try it. Jiang Chuxiu then handed him a stack of completed files and paperwork pertaining to the villa. He sat down after she handed him the files. She explained that once he signed the documents and made the final payment, the villa would officially be his. He took the files from Chuxiu and expressed his gratitude for her assistance. Chuxiu introduced Qin Li to Jiang Shi, a representative from the Jiang group. Jiang Shi had come specifically to meet Qin Li, having heard of his arrival and expressed interest in discussing a potential collaboration. He then bowed politely and greeted Qin Li. While Qin Li was intrigued, he wondered what kind of cooperation Jiang Shi had in mind. Jiang Shi reintroduced himself and clarified that he was a subordinate of Jiang Zheng, just like Chuxiu. He further explained that he had just been transferred to Yangcheng to head the Zhang's entertainment program. He also insisted that Qin Li should take care of them in the future, while flashing a sincere smile. Qin Li politely thanked Jiang Xi for his kindness as they shook hands. However, he could not help but express his curiosity about the nature of the proposed cooperation. Their conversation flowed smoothly as Chuxiu poured tea into the cups. Jiang Xi explained that he had heard about Qin Li's remarkable invention, an ointment that had successfully healed the facial ailment of Liu Jiang's cousin. This achievement had sparked the Jiang group's interest in collaborating with Qin Li to develop and market a similar ointment. Meanwhile, Qin Li sipped his tea while attentively listening to Jiang Xi's proposal for collaboration. Jiang Xi spoke with enthusiasm, confident that Jiang Group's extensive resources and established brands would guarantee the ointment's success. He further assured Qin Li that when they established a company to manufacture and market the ointment, Qin Li would hold the majority of the shares. Qin Li was taken aback by the offer of majority ownership, feeling both surprised and hesitant to accept such a generous proposition. Mr. Shi was persistent in his pursuit of Qin Li's collaboration, reiterating his desire to acquire the rights to Qin Li's ointment for production and marketing under the Jiang Group. He then showed an illustration of the major shares regarding the ointment, with Qin Li as the major shareholder. Jiang Shi fell silent, his gaze fixed on Qin Li, pondering whether his persuasive arguments had swayed the inventor. The fact that he addressed Liu Jiang by his given name without any honorifics hinted at the Jiang family's significant influence. Their ability to call upon such a powerful figure by name suggested they held a position of considerable authority within Jiang province. Qin Li mused to himself and acknowledged the truth in Jiang Shi's words. He realized that the Jiang Group's extensive resources and established network would undoubtedly amplify the ointment's reach and impact. He thought about it carefully and deeply while holding his chin. Jiang Shi observed Qin Li's thoughtful expression and suspected that the inventor might be hesitant, or perhaps concerned, that the offered share of the company was insufficient. With a sudden and deliberate cough, Mr. Shi subtly signaled to Chuxiu, seeking her assistance in persuading Qin Li to accept the collaboration. Chuxiu, ever perceptive, immediately recognized Jiang Shi's silent plea and swiftly moved to act. She rose from her seat and extended a formal offer to Qin Li. To compensate for the previous day's disruption, she proposed that Qin Li accept ownership of the largest casino in Yangcheng. Chuxiu presented the ownership documents to Qin Li, but he politely declined. He explained that Jiang Shi's gesture was too grand and that the previous day's commotion had already been resolved to his satisfaction. Chuxiu remained insistent, hoping to persuade him to accept the offer. She believed that his refusal would indicate he hadn't fully forgiven her for the previous day's events, and that Mr. Jiang would also blame her. Qin Li gestured toward the untouched outstretched cup of tea before him, a subtle indication of his refusal to accept the offer. Chukxiu recognized the futility of her efforts and reluctantly backed down. It was clear that no amount of persuasion would change Qin Li's mind. However, Jiang Shi sensed Qin Li's unwavering stance and then offered a different proposition. Jiang Shi, with a subtle gesture, presented Qin Li with a gleaming gold card. This card, he explained, would grant Qin Li free access to all of Jiang's entertainment establishments. Faced with the unwavering generosity of both Jiang Shi and Chukxiu, Qin Li found himself unable to refuse. He accepted the gold card with a grateful nod, acknowledging their persistent efforts to make amends. A wave of relief washed over both Chukxiu and Jiang Shi as they witnessed Qin Li accept their offer. Jiang Shi, with a reassuring smile, poured a fresh cup of tea for Qin Li and asked him what he thought about their collaboration. After a moment of contemplation, Qin Li proposed a new plan for their collaboration. He suggested that the Jiang Group provide the production line and marketing channels, while he would contribute his expertise. He proposed a 50-50 share split, with Shi holding the shares on his behalf. Jiang Shi's eyes lit up with excitement at Qin Li's proposal and happily said that he would bring the contract tomorrow. Chukxiu's phone buzzed with a message that interrupted the celebratory atmosphere. It was a notification that a supplier of raw stones would be arriving at the Tianhao Hotel later that evening. Qin Li stands up and says that he won't bother her anymore about the business. Later that evening, Qin Li made his way to the warehouse to personally inspect the newly arrived shipment of raw stones. He was holding a bucket overflowing with jade stones and let out a weary sigh. The clock struck midnight, yet Qin Li remained awake, diligently cutting each jade stone in half with a practiced hand. Exhaustion finally caught up with him, forcing him to remove his goggles and let out a weary shout. Qin Li, while scratching his face, muttered to himself that he had no idea the blood jade was so rare. As he surveyed the stones, a memory flickered through his mind. He remembered a time when he used his unique ability to discern the true jade stones from the ordinary ones. With a determined glint in his eye, Qin Li activated his powers. The room pulsed with energy as his abilities surged, searching for the distinct aura that only a true jade stone possessed. After a minute of intense concentration, Qin Li's powers finally located a stone with a unique and vibrant aura, distinct from the others. Deep in the Chukxiu residence, Qin Yan and others anxiously awaited Qin Li's return. The clock had long since struck midnight, and her worry grew with each passing moment. As he stepped through the doorway, he saw the entire family gathered in the main room, waiting for his return. He then wondered what was going on for them to wait for him until midnight, and asked why they were still awake. Qin Yan, her eyes flashing with anger, accused Qin Li's assistant of giving him something that had made him forget about his family. He was still waiting for someone to enlighten him about what was happening. To drive her point home, Qin Yan gestured towards the photographs spread across the table, hoping they would jog Qin Li's memory and reveal the truth to him. Han Yanchu, her face contorted with rage, pointed a finger at Qin Li and screamed that he was a bastard. Her voice trembled with anger as she accused Qin Li of betraying her daughter. She demanded that he leave the Chukxiu family immediately if he continued his infidelity, claiming that his actions were sullying the family's reputation. He then grabbed the pictures from the table, his heart pounding in his chest. His eyes widened in disbelief as he saw a photograph of himself and his assistant, Liang Qin, together. As Qin Li stared at the photographs, Qin Yan's parents and Qin Yan herself glared at him, their faces filled with anger and accusation. Zitin, her voice strained with emotion, demanded an explanation from Qin Li as she slammed the table. Qin Li, seemingly unfazed by the accusations and anger directed at him, simply asked Zitin where she got the photos. She refused to answer Qin Li's question. Instead, she demanded that he identify the woman in the photograph. He explained that the woman in the photo was his assistant, a homeless woman he had rescued after she was injured. She could have volunteered to work at his clinic as a way of paying his kindness. Qin Li reached for his phone and dialed Liang Qin, his assistant. Liang Qin answered the phone and addressed Qin Li as her boss. Qin Yan's family was stunned. The assistant on the phone had addressed Qin Li as her boss, and that detail shocked them even further. Within 10 minutes, the situation had been resolved. Kennigan felt a wave of embarrassment wash over her because they had accused Qin Li of infidelity, and now the truth was out. Qin Li elaborated, explaining that his assistant was an orphan raised from childhood by a special organization. She had no family and no other place to go. Zitin, now calmer, said that Qin Li should have told them about his assistant beforehand. That way they would not have jumped to the conclusion that he was cheating. Qin Yan's mother laughed, a nervous sound that seemed to mask her embarrassment, and said that it wasn't that they doubted Qin Li. Qin Li settled onto the sofa, relieved that the commotion had finally subsided. Qin Yan then grabbed Qin Li and recommended they go upstairs so they wouldn't disturb her parents. As Qin Li and Qin Yan ascended the stairs, their parents were busy removing and concealing the tools of torture, their faces a mixture of relief and lingering anxiety. As they walked, Qin Li began to tell Qin Yan that the Jiang Group had secured a business deal with them. Qin Yan was stunned, her eyes widening in surprise and delight. The Jiang Group was the leading business conglomerate in the entire Jiang province, and this was incredible news. The long night had finally passed, and a new day had dawned. Mr. Z arrived at the Chu residence, carrying the contract for Qin Yan and telling her that she just needed to sign it. Qin Yan began signing the contract, formalizing the collaboration between the Jiang group and the Chu family. Mr. Z extended his congratulations to Ms. Qin Yan on her new position as CEO of the newly formed company. Qin Yan responded with humility, acknowledging that she would need Mr. Z's guidance in the future, particularly with aspects of the business that were unfamiliar to her. He was genuinely pleased, his heart warmed by the stories Qin Yan and Qin Li had shared about her previously. A thought lingered on Qin Yan's lips, but she couldn't quite voice it. The joy of bringing happiness to someone else was simply overwhelming. Her voice suddenly became small, and she asked if it was because of the opening of the company that Qin Li went to Zhangcheng. Mr. Z informed her that Qin Li had previously sold the blood jade for hundreds of millions of dollars. Mr. Z continued explaining that Jiang Zheng had instructed Qin Li to find another piece of blood jade. To everyone's surprise, Qin Li had managed to locate one within just a few days. The sun shone brightly over Jiang City Airport. Jiang Zheng spotted Qin Li in the bustling airport and called out to him, his voice cutting through the noise. The girl's eyes fell upon Jiang Zheng, and a flurry of whispers erupted among them, curious about who the person was that Jiang Zheng had called. His voice held a hint of pride as he expressed his surprise at Qin Li's swift discovery of the blood jade. He acknowledged the immense effort that must have been required. Later that day, they arrived at the Jiang residence. Jiang Zheng explained to Qin Li that his father had even declined social engagements in order to express his gratitude for Qin Li's efforts. He also went on to say that this was the first time his father had been so eager to meet someone. Qin Li responded with a hopeful smile and told him that he hoped the jade stone would not disappoint his father. Jiang Zheng's father showered him with praise upon entering the room. He expressed his heartfelt gratitude, acknowledging that Qin Li had saved his life. He couldn't believe how young Qin Li was, yet he had accomplished such a feat. Qin Li, with characteristic humility, deflected the praise. He explained that his knowledge of was limited, gleaned primarily from books. A few moments passed and Jiang Zheng, his brow furrowed with worry, inquired about the blood jade. Mr. Qin's discovery of a rare 7-colored jade for the Jiang family was met with astonishment. The jade had been unseen for decades, and it was a remarkable find. Driven by curiosity, Jiang Zheng asked if it was the same 7-colored jade from the auction that was worth $10 billion. His father, his voice thick with disbelief, could not believe that he was able to see the unique blood jade again. He also added that the 7-colored jade stone had only been found many years ago, not until today. The 7-colored jade is a unique and precious gem that had fetched a staggering $10 billion at auction. Qin Li was a true blessing to the Jiang family. His discovery of the unique gem was a tremendous favor, and one that would forever be remembered. It was fortunate that Jiang Lim appreciated the gem Qin Li had found. Moments later, Qin Li and Jiang Zheng walked side by side down the hallway. As they walked, Jiang Zheng abruptly changed the subject and brought up the task he had given him, which was to find his parents. Jiang Zheng had managed to gather some information about Qin Li's missing parents. He also added that the information about his missing parents might not be entirely accurate, then carefully handed the files to him. As Qin Li skimmed through the files, he cautioned him that the files may not be very credible. He pointed out that there was one piece of information missing from the records, which was that Qin Li's parents had been spotted in Kamagyo just 2 years ago. Qin Li was stunned by Jiang Zheng's revelation about his parents and urgently asked for confirmation. Jiang Zheng reassured Qin Li that he had only received the information and was still seeking confirmation. Zheng promised to update him as soon as he had verified the details. Qin Li then realized that his quest to find his parents would likely cause some trouble for Jiang Zheng. On a bright and sunny day, Qin Li and Jiang Zheng found themselves inside the Quanji Hotel. Jiang Zheng proudly introduced the hotel and explained that it was owned by his sister and was quite well known throughout the city. He was also eager to introduce Qin Li to the signature dishes of his sister's hotel. As Qin Li and Zheng chatted, a girl standing behind them suddenly called out to Jiang Zheng. The girl turned out to be Jiang Zheng's younger sister, named Jiang Ran. She was sulking because her brother had promised to take her shopping today, but it had not happened. Zheng quickly explained that he had gotten caught up in the excitement of the jade and had completely forgotten that he had promised to go shopping with his sister today. He turned to Qin Li and introduced his sister, but she was still clearly upset about the broken shopping promise. Qin Li had a feeling he'd read about Jiang Ran in a journal before, but he could not quite place where he had seen her name. Jiang Ran is a brilliant young woman who had already founded a successful catering company and was now a dominant force in the city's food scene, despite being only 20. He extended his hand for a handshake and introduced himself, but Jiang Ran completely ignored him because her attention was still focused on her brother. Jiang Ran insisted that they order something in the private room, still fuming about her brother breaking their shopping plans. Zheng explained to him while whispering that his sister had a bit of a problem with men and was not very interested in getting along with them. She overheard, which made her even more upset, causing the other two to shut up. Suddenly, a well-built bodyguard rushed over to tell Jiang Ran that something had happened. She scolded him for being loud since there were customers in the area. The man explained that a staff member was about to jump off the building, alarming all of them. She then rushed to the elevator while calling the police for backup. Zhang Zheng apologized to Qin Li for the incident, but Qin Li simply told him to relax, saying he might be able to help with their trouble. Up on the rooftop, the other staff members are trying to convince the girl to stop, but she doesn't seem to hear them due to an evil aura. Her foot dangles over the ledge, nearly causing her to fall. Jiang Ran arrives at the rooftop as the other two follow. She then tries to convince the girl not to jump and promises her anything in exchange. The girl turns around and asks if she really meant that. Qin Li notices her red eyes and the evil aura, causing him to deduce that this is not a simple suicide. Jiang Ran rushes over to the ledge to try and stop the girl from jumping, ignoring Qin Li's warnings not to go near her. The possessed girl grabs Jiang Ran's wrist and jumps over the ledge, causing Ran to lose her balance. As the girl pulls her off the ledge, they both begin to fall, and Ran extends her hand, trying to grab onto something. Qin Li swiftly moves towards her as her brother shouts her name. He manages to catch both of the girl's hands in the nick of time, successfully saving them from falling, though he struggles to pull them up from the ledge. He then pulls them up too hard, making them fly into the air. Qin Li sees Jiang Zheng's sister falling in front of him and manages to glance at her underwear for a brief moment before she roughly lands on his groin, causing him to spit out blood from the pain while the other girl lands on all fours. The girl then proceeds to attack them both while their guard is down. Jiang Zheng warns him about the impending attack, so Qin Li quickly uses his imbued needle against her right before she lands the attack. As the needle dispels the evil aura surrounding the girl, she falls to the floor unconscious. Qin Li notices that Jiang Ran is blushing and shivering, doing his hands holding her waist. She promptly jumps away like a cat and scolds him for placing his hands on her waist, making him apologize for his actions. Jiang Zheng praises Qin Li for his heroism and asks how he managed to save them both. Qin Li tells Jiang that he noticed something was wrong earlier, so he was able to make a quick decision, which made the others question when he noticed. Qin Li says that he can't explain the situation well, and that the building has been placed under a formation by someone who knows metaphysics. Jiang Ran disapproves of his claims, calling it mere superstition, but Qin Li adds that it's not just superstition, that the building is cursed. This causes Jiang Ran to be mad at him for calling her hotel cursed, despite him saving her life. Jiang Jing interrupts their banter and tells him about his concern regarding metaphysics users, since such things didn't exist until a couple of years ago. As he says this, Jiang Ran rushes over to the collapsed girl and orders her men to call an ambulance to assist her. Zheng then asks Qin Li to go back downstairs, but Qin seems to be focused on something. They continue their conversation as they return to the main floor, but Qin Li still seems distracted, rummaging through his pockets. He then drops a jade gourd into a potted plant, and finally replies to Jiang Jun. As they head out, the gourd seems to be overflowing with magical power, continuing even after they leave. A few minutes later, Zhang Lim brings an old man to the hotel, having heard that his daughter had been having trouble lately. This man's name is Master Chung, and he assures Lim that he will solve the problem as he strokes his beard. Suddenly he senses something, a strong evil aura permeating throughout the hotel. He worriedly states that the person who set up the evil formation seems to be an expert, and that only 2 people in Jiangcheng can break this formation. They enter the hotel, and Jiang Ran notices them as she is calling the hospital for the possessed girl. She asks her father what they are doing there, and he replies that there's something wrong with the hotel, so he brought Master Chung to take a look. While the two are talking, Master Chung spots something unusual in a potted plant. He sees the jade gourd that Qin Li previously dropped on purpose, and asks who put it there. Chung crouches to closely inspect the gourd, and then a security guard comes over to inform him that it was dropped by a man who was with Jiang Jun. Jiang Ran is surprised that Qin Li's name is being mentioned again, making her wonder what the fuss is all about. Master Chung tells her that it was thanks to the gourd that they were all able to avoid a violent death, but Ran doesn't believe it and secretly gets irritated at the man. Jiang Lim is the opposite and believes the man, so he asks for the specifics. Chung replies, saying that the one who left the gourd can break the formation for sure. They ask where Qin Li is, but Jiang Ran doesn't know and tells them that Jun took him somewhere earlier. Her father then orders her to immediately call them to find out where he is. She dejectedly follows her father's orders, wondering what the big deal is. After a while, the two arrive, and Jiang Jun asks if something happened since they were asked to come back urgently. His father replies and informs him that Master Chung found out the problem with the hotel, but also had something to ask Qin Li. Chung explains that he saw the hotel's evil energy and noticed something amiss. After searching, he found the gourd that Qin Li left. Qin Li confirms that it was indeed the jade gourd he put in the pot earlier. Jiang Jun asks what is wrong with the gourd, but Chung simply laughs and merrily praises Qin Li for his excellence in preventing another disaster. Jiang Lim guesses that Li put the gourd there to suppress the formation, so there shouldn't be any more accidents in the future, but Qin Li tells him that the problem is not yet solved. He explains that he only put the gourd there to temporarily suppress the formation, since he noticed that the energy originated near the potted plant. They head to the rooftop, and he tells them that this place is the weakest point of the formation's energy. He then borrows some coins from the old man, to which he evilly complies. After collecting the coins, Chin Li tosses them up in the air charged with his energy. He notices a lot of fatal energy coming out after he throws the coins, which surrounds them as Chin Li continues to channel his energy into the coins. The evil spirits gather and turn into an ominous-looking powerful entity. Master Chung didn't expect that such a fierce formation would be as powerful as an evil spirit, which makes them all worried. Right before they get overwhelmed, Chin Li fiercely pierces the ground with his special dagger, which causes the spirits to dispel as a strong wind blows over all of them. Chin Li lets out a sigh after finishing his work and tells the others that the person who tried to jump off the building should be fine now as he sheathes his dagger. Both Master Chung and Jiang Zheng praise him for his excellence once again in saving Jiang Ran's hotel from destruction. Jiang Lim then whispers that Chin Li shouldn't take to heart what his daughter says, since she just has a bad temper. Chin Li gets a bit embarrassed and simply acknowledges his words, avoiding eye contact. After the incident, both Jun and Li go to the Ming Palace to familiarize themselves with the area. They go inside and ask for a room, which causes the manager of the hotel to become flustered after seeing Jiang Jun. The manager then apologizes, saying they can't accommodate the two due to the palace being full, which causes Jun to question him. He scolds the manager, knowing for a fact that there are still rooms available, and accuses him of trying to fool him. The manager explains that they are not to offend the customers, but a red-haired man enters the room and interrupts them. The man's name is Zhou Sui, who is from a distinguished family and also knows Jiang Jun. Jiang Zheng mockingly states that he was wondering what kind of loser rented the whole restaurant for a meal, only to find out that it was Zhao. Sui responds to his taunts and mocks him for hanging out with poor people, saying he can only show off in a poor place like Jiang Cheng. Jiang Cheng gets serious after his mockery and asks him if he has such a big ego, because he believes his family is a celebrity in Shenzhen. Sui sharply replies that at the very least, they have a name in Shenzhen, unlike the Jiang family, who keeps getting driven out of the capital. Jiang Jun finally snaps and dares him to repeat his insults, reminding him that he put him in the hospital a year ago. Chin Li wonders how strong Jun is for defeating such a strong-looking man as he observes their exchange. Zhao Sui initiates the fight by throwing a kick, proclaiming that he is not the same person he was last year. Jiang Jun blocks his attack with both hands, but it still sets him a few meters back, even though he manages to block it. He realizes that he actually got stronger after taking such a powerful blow, so he decides to charge at him to end the fight quickly. Sui also charges and tells him that he won't stop the fight even if he begs for mercy. He then dodges his attacks as he continues to pile on insult after insult to the Zhang family and proclaims that he will help the Zhao family get rid of them as he launches his fist toward Jun. A loud impact bursts across the room, sending Sui flying into a table and wrecking it as he lands. Jiang Jun notices that Chin Li managed to shake him again as he sees his overwhelming figure wrapped in very powerful energy. He wonders why Chin Li is so good at fighting despite not being a professional fighter. Zhao Sui is surprised that Jun had such a strong person with him and thinks that he is as strong as his cousin who came back from the army. He decides to retreat and tells Jiang Jun that he is lucky since he has an outsider to protect him, and assures him that they will continue their fight as he walks out the exit. After Zhao leaves, Jiang Jun thanks Chin Li for saving him, but Chin Li modestly responds, saying that he couldn't just let him get hurt. Jun then cheerfully asks him to eat since he has a flight to catch that afternoon. He had also booked his sister's flight on the same plane as him since she is going to Yangsheng to visit a friend, but Chin Li notices what he is trying to do and curses him. After they both ate, he managed to catch his flight on time. As he read through a magazine comfortably, Jiang Ran walks over and notices his face. Chin Li greets her nervously as she questions why they keep meeting everywhere. She hurries over to her seat to avoid him at all costs, but a stranger suddenly touches her inappropriately, which makes her stand frozen in place for a second as a flight attendant asks her what is wrong. She angrily points to the man and informs the attendant that she is being harassed by him. The perverted man tells them that it was only a touch as he proceeds to also touch the flight attendant inappropriately. The pilot steps in and asks the man to apologize for his behavior, warning that if not, they will report him to the authorities and place him on a no-fly list. But suddenly, a hooded man points a gun at the captain while he stands nervously. The hooded man praises the pervert, named Lao San, for acting well, revealing that he is his accomplice. The two of them then threaten all the passengers on board, demanding they put their valuables in a bag, or else they would shoot. Jiang Ran shivers in fear after seeing this situation unfold, and is suddenly grabbed from behind, making her sunglasses fall off. It was Chin Li who grabbed her, now ordering her not to make a noise. They then go to the bathroom to hide. Chin Li sternly tells Ran to lock the door and hide, saying he will go out, so she asks him what he is going to do. He confidently states that he will take down the robbers outside. Zhang asks why he would want to mess with the thugs and tells him it would be better to just give them all their belongings, which makes him annoyed. Back outside the bathroom, Lao San complains that they haven't even met a single rich person on the plane. Suddenly, a child loudly cries in front of him. He points his gun toward the kid and threatens to shoot him if he doesn't shut up. Before he can do anything, Chin Li swiftly steps in and lands a strong punch straight to the robber's face, which sends the guy flying into the seats. The other robber shouts at him to get up while taking the captain hostage, but he doesn't respond. He then tries to find who did it and threatens to kill the pilot if anyone moves, which makes Chin Li torn on what to do since there is a hostage at gunpoint right before the robber can pull the trigger. Chin Li rushes over to attack with his bare hands. Then a loud bang echoes throughout the plane as blood drips. Thankfully, Chin Li only got shot in the shoulder, so Jiang Ran patches him up and scolds him for risking his life like that. The flight attendant tells her they are thankful for him since they would all be in danger if it weren't for her boyfriend. Jiang Ran blushes and clarifies that he is not her boyfriend while looking all flustered. After the plane lands, the police take away the robbers immediately. The two head out of the plane and Jiang Ran asks Chin Li where he is going. He tells her that he is obviously going home since he has just been shot. Jiang Ran replies, asking him to take care of her tomorrow since she is not familiar with Yang Cheng, which annoys him, and he realizes this is why June looks so tired. Time passes after they parted ways. Chin Li is now back at the clinic, with his assistant tending to his gunshot wound. She tells him that it is impressive he managed to beat the gunman with his bare hands. Though he simply accepts the praise, he then asks her if she wants to find her teammates, as they might still be alive. Li and King shivers upon hearing his question and asks him what he meant, to which he replies, saying that he can help her find them. She then asks if she can really see them again, to which he assures her that she can. Afterwards, she looks for the personal information of her teammates to aid in his search, while Chin Li notices that she has started crying and ponders that she also has a soft side. Li and King open the documents that she has kept hidden for a long time inside a locked briefcase. She then hands them to Chin Li as he assures her that he will do his best to find them. After getting treated in the clinic, he heads home to his luxurious villa to rest. Inside the house, Chin Yin is typing on her laptop for work. She notices her husband coming home, so she greets him enthusiastically. Chin Li sits beside her and tells her that he is worried about her working so hard for the company, but she assures him that she is fine and goes on to show him the good news. As he looks at the laptop, he notices something interesting. It's the amount of sales their trial products have garnered, a ton. So he pats her on the head as he praises her for the good work, and she also thanks him, now that she has her own company and career. She then informs him that she has a meeting in Yangcheng tomorrow afternoon, but she doesn't want to see the person who invited her since it was her previous boss. Chin Li asks if she really wants to go, to which she replies that it is important to go since they can make a lot of connections there, though she is still worried that she might have a hard time if she goes to the meeting alone. So he jokingly asks her if she is still worried that the Jian Group is not as good as the Sky Eagle Company, to which she firmly denies. Chin Li then tells her not to worry anymore since he will accompany her. After a short while, Chin Li gets ready for bed while his wife is having a shower in the background. He is healing his injury, which is now almost complete. Chin Yun opens the bathroom door after she is done and sees the injury her husband has gotten. She approaches him out of concern, but Chin Li shrugs it off, saying it was only a small injury. Chin Yun tells him that he should be more careful outside since her father still wants her to have a grandchild with him. Chin Li becomes flustered and stumbles over his words about what she just said, while being excited at the prospect of having a child with her. Then he changes the topic and asks if she truly likes girls due to the incident from a while back. She explains that she was just afraid of men due to a senior she liked before she met Chin Li and almost died thanks to that experience. The senior later went on to be sent to prison for his other crimes, so after that, she decided to only fall in love with girls, but was tricked by a girl as well. Chin Li holds her hands after hearing her story and assures her that he won't allow anyone to hurt her ever again. Endeared by his words, Chin Yun apologizes for how she behaved toward him all this time. As she panics thinking of how to make it up to her husband, Chin Li simply tells her to forget about all the things that happened in the past and to move forward. As he pushes her onto the bed, he turns the light off, plunging them both into darkness, deep into the night. While the cicadas cry outside, the couple are pressed against each other, making Chin Yun ask him to rest due to his injuries. But he refuses, saying that it is only a small injury, so she finally agrees to continue the deed and asks him to be gentle, and so they finally spend the night together for the first time, with their hearts finally in sync. Morning then came after spending the night in each other's arms. While the gardener cleans up the mess outside, due to the massive winds from the previous night, the couple gets ready to eat their breakfast. Chin Li offers to help her with the chores while looking absolutely elated, but she refuses and tells him that she can handle it by herself, as she shyly avoids staring into his eyes due to the warm night they spent together earlier. So he simply reminds her that they will be going to the exchange meeting later before they go and eat. Afterward, they both head outside to the city. Chin Yun asks Chin Li why they are at a car dealership, so he answers by saying that they will have to travel a lot more in the future, so they should buy a car for themselves. He then spots a good-looking car, making her ask if he wants it, to which he tells her that he has wanted an off-road car ever since his childhood. So he opens the door to look at the interior, but a man suddenly stops him and shouts at him not to move. The man is revealed to be from the dealership and scolds him for touching the car, falsely assuming that Chin Lee can't afford it. Chin Lee then apologizes despite the man talking down to him and asks if he can test drive the car. The salesman arrogantly answers by saying that he has to pay a deposit in advance in case he breaks the car, since it is a limited edition model. So Chin Lee asks how much the deposit is, to which the salesman answers, saying that it is originally $80,000, but since he likes it, he will offer $60,000 for it. This surprises Chin Lee since the offer the salesman made is half of the car's amount, despite him only wanting to test it out. The salesman simply tells him that it is the store's minimum deposit, while secretly thinking of humiliating him, suspecting him of being poor. Qing Yan notices the man's attitude and tells Chin Lee that they should just head out due to the salesman's unwelcoming statements, and that they should just look at the next store, to which he promptly agrees. The salesman then berates them behind their back, saying that they can't afford anything, so there is no point in going to the next place. While he continues to talk down to the couple, his subordinates call out to him and tell him that the couple really crossed the street to take a other store. This surprises him, making him decide to take a look at what they will do. The dealership they visit is New Borghini. Inside, they are warmly greeted by a manager who recommends a car called Aventador for $800,000 and even offers to let them test it out for free. The arrogant salesman from before furiously scolds the manager named Juan for letting the couple drive an expensive car and falsely accuses them of not being able to afford a car for $100,000. To which Juan simply shrugs off and tells him that it is their policy to serve every customer. Kin Lai is now irritated by the previous salesman's accusations and asks him why he thinks that he can't afford the car. So he decides to buy the Aventador with his golden card with full payment and tells the manager that he doesn't need to test it out. Manager Juan happily accepts his payment and takes him to the VIP room while the arrogant salesman stares at the golden card in shock. As they head into the VIP room, they leave the arrogant salesman behind looking humiliated. Juan then thanks him for sending a big customer, adding to the salesman's humiliation. Night comes after the feud with the car salesman, and they finally head to the Huangtu building for the meeting. They arrive at the venue wearing expensive clothes which were picked by King Yin. As they happily stroll through the place, his phone suddenly rings. It is Zhang Ran calling about their supposed appointment, which he had forgotten, so he tells his wife to wait for him since he has to answer a call, to which she agrees. He then proceeds to answer the call while heading to a private space after his wife's approval. After entering a bathroom stall, he tells Zhang Ran on the phone that he is currently at the exchange and asks her what she wants. She furiously scolds him for not picking her up, so he tells her that he is at the top of the Huangtu building and tells Ms. Zhang, who suddenly appeared before him, to pick her up since he was not yet accustomed to the place. She then asks who she is supposed to pick up, to which she answers that it is Zhang Ran, who is currently staying on the second floor. This makes her immediately head there, worrying why the young miss stayed in the Huangtu building without their family knowing. Back at the meeting, while King Yin is talking to other people, she is suddenly interrupted by someone who is surprised to see that she came. It was her previous boss who suddenly criticizes her for wearing showy clothes and accuses her of planning to seduce millionaires all while wearing a gaudy outfit herself. King Yin then tells her previous boss when she calls Director Liu to watch what she is saying. This makes the fat director approach her and slap King Yin for offending her. She then tells her to get out, shouting that King Yin has no right to tell her what to do and that she shouldn't get ahead of herself just because she left her job. Ken Lai arrives at the scene and asks what the commotion is all about. Director Liu recognizes him as King Yin's deadbeat husband and tells him that he should discipline his wife. He then asks her if she hit King Yin, to which she shamelessly admits while taunting him. So he punches her straight in the face in retaliation, sending her flying a few feet away and falling to the floor. Ken Lai then looks at her with rage for hitting his wife as she rolls on the floor, acting like a victim and shouting that she is being beaten up. A bald man comes to the fat woman's rescue and asks her what happened. Director Liu tells the bald man named Chen that Ken Lai suddenly beat her up, which makes Chen scold King Yin for letting her husband beat Liu up and demands her to kneel down and apologize. Ken Lai defends her, telling the man that Director Liu is the one who should apologize since she was the one who hit King Yin first and that she has already left Sky Eagle Company. Chen tells her not to get ahead of herself just because she started a new company and boasts about how Sky Eagle signed a deal with the Zhang Company, so they shouldn't offend him. But then Zhang Ran suddenly appears and asks him about what he just said regarding their companies collaborating. Director Liu shouts at her for meddling in their affairs, unaware that she is actually the young miss of the Zhang family. Chu Xiu interrupts and informs Director Liu that she is currently speaking to a member of the Zhang family, which makes the two geezers nervous after blatantly disrespecting the girl. As the night progresses, Director Liu tries to reintroduce herself as the director of the Sky Eagle Company and Chen as the manager. But Chu Xiu brushes off their polite introductions by asking if they were the ones who scolded Jiang Ran, to which the director denies, claiming it was a big misunderstanding and that Chen Lai was the true cause of the commotion since he hit her. Manager Chen supports this and then asks Chuxu to get rid of the couple. Chuxu asks them what company they belong to, and they reply that they are members of Sky Eagle. She then announces that the business contract between their companies will be cancelled and that the Jiang Group will compensate for the breach of contract. This stuns the two geezers, leaving them wondering why she decided to punish them instead of the couple. Chuxu explains that she isn't mistaken at all in punishing them, since they insulted Miss Jiang Ran and the second largest shareholder of the Jiang Group in Yangcheng, not to mention Jiang Ran's dear friend Qin Li, to whom he feels proud. Manager Chen can't believe that Qin Li is a major shareholder in the Jiang company, as she was his former subordinate and secretly regrets helping the director. Jiang Ran, furious after being disrespected by outsiders, asks Chuxu to deal with the geezers, so Chuxu promptly orders them to leave, warning that otherwise they will be dragged out by security. Jiang Ran then feels proud after saving Qin Li, so he thanks her for her help. As she picks up a wine glass, she seductively asks Qin Li to pour her a glass if he really intends to thank her. But Qin Li interrupts her from flirting with her husband by offering to pour her a glass herself, as thanks for what she did. Jiang Ran then asks who Qin Li is as she firmly grasps her hand, so Qin Li introduces Qin Li as his wife, making the two exchange vicious looks as they realize each other's romantic feelings toward Qin Li. Qin Li then grabs the wine glass and takes it from Jiang Ran, refusing to let her pour the wine. Though Jiang Ran insists, Qin Li firmly says that she wants to thank her on behalf of her husband, throwing a wrench into her plans of seducing Qin Li. Qin Li notices the tension between the two and feels that he should leave in order to survive, so he tries to escape, but the two firmly tell him that he can't go anywhere. This makes him retreat to the restroom instead, so they can't do anything to stop him. As he heads toward the restroom, feeling troubled by the two women, Chuxu interrupts his train of thought by jokingly saying that Qin Li actually has a fear of them. He explains that he really doesn't understand why both of them are antagonizing each other, so she teases him by saying that it might be because he is too outstanding, making him shake his head in disapproval. Qin Li changes the topic and tells her that he has something to give to Jiang Jun. He then hands her a drive and asks her to request Jiang Jun's help in finding the people inside the flash drive. He adds that the identities of the people on the drive are confidential and important to him, so Chuxu thanks Qin Li for trusting her and tells him that she will do as he asks. Then she proceeds to tease him by asking if he is going to return to the banquet, to which he answers that he will go back after a few minutes. After the meeting, he and his wife head home using their newly bought car. Qin Li asks Qin Yun what she talked about with Jiang Ran for so long. She answers by saying that Jiang Ran was talking about how Qin Li messed with her, to which he firmly denies and tells her not to believe it. Qin Yun then admits that she was joking, and that Jiang Ran only mentioned that Qin Li owes her a meal, while hiding the fact that she also knows Jiang Ran has a crush on him. He then explains that the young miss of the Jiang family came to Yangsheng to meet her friend, but he didn't expect things to turn out this way. Qin Yun tells him that she also heard that from Jiang Ran, and that Jiang Ran asked her to come on a business trip to Yangsheng. Qin Li asks her what she wants to do about the offer, and she answers that she is not yet sure but believes it could be a good business opportunity for them. He then tells her that he is also not yet sure what to do. This makes Qin Yun question him on what his plans are, and if he can accompany her to Yangsheng, to which he replies that he will go with her if she wants him to after finishing his work at the clinic. As they arrive at the villa, they spot Zitan sitting on the porch, playing with her phone, while eagerly waiting for them to return. Zitan notices them arriving and goes to greet the two. After that, they all go inside the house. Zitan is impressed by the luxurious villa her brother-in-law bought and couldn't believe her eyes. This causes Qin Yun to lightly hit her on the head for calling Qin Li without honorifics as he pours them a drink. Zitan goes to him for help and finally calls him brother-in-law, making him happy after all those years of being addressed rudely. She then revels in his completely new and luxurious lifestyle and asks him how he was able to afford it, to which he replies that he found a good job. He also asks her why she came to see them, causing her to remember that she originally came to ask him for something. She reminds him about his promise to accompany her to the sorority in a couple of days and says she has been looking for him the past few days, but he had been busy. Qin Li remembers the promise and thought she was only joking before, so she asks if he will really go with her, worrying that the bullies might decide to retaliate. He then advises her not to go, but she firmly refuses, saying that she can't keep hiding like a coward. Qin Yun also steps in and tells him that he should honor his promise to her, so Qin Li finally agrees, unable to find an excuse not to go. Shin pouts after seeing his dejected attitude as her sister tries to cheer her up. She then mutters that Qin Li didn't mind going before, feeling a bit sad while secretly thinking to herself that she's acting crazy. Qin Li tries to cheer her up by asking her to help with cooking, to which she enthusiastically agrees, successfully cheering her up and even requesting pork ribs for dinner. A month passes, and the time finally comes to go to Jiangcheng. Qin Yun waits for her husband outside the crowded clinic. While Qin Li is inside observing, Liang came doing her chores, debating whether to discuss the matter about her comrades with her. He tries to initiate a conversation, but she suddenly cuts him off by asking what will happen to the clinic after he leaves. So Qin Li tells her not to worry since famous Chinese doctors will take care of the clinic in a few days. He also tells her that he has asked someone to look for her comrades, and that he will inform her right away if he receives any news about them, causing Liang Qing to thank him for doing so much for her. Qin Li then hands her the keys to the villa for her to live in after he is gone and promises to take her to Jiangcheng as well after he finishes his preparations. She refuses to take them, feeling indebted, but he insists on giving her the keys, saying that he treats her as a friend so he isn't owed anything by her. Jiang Yun calls out to him from outside, saying that they should go, otherwise they might miss their flight. So Qin Li proceeds to leave and tells her to call if she ever needs anything. She waves goodbye, feeling hopeful after hearing his kind words, and so the couple travels to their new villa in Jiangcheng as the moving company brings their furniture and belongings inside the house. They welcome Zhang Zhen into their new home, who congratulates them for finally moving there. Qin Yun thanks him for taking care of their move to Jiangcheng, to which he humbly responds and tells her that it was the least he could do for Qin Li, whom he views as his brother, and that they are also partners with the Zhang group, so they shouldn't worry about the small stuff. Qin Li tells him that they will be in their care, making Zhang Zhen chuckle at his politeness and ask him to speak casually since they are now brothers. As he wraps his arm around him, Zhang Zhen mentions that he has an appointment with one of Qin Li's peers and wants to introduce them to each other. So Qin Li tells his wife that he has a meeting to attend, to which she replies that she will take care of organizing the house in the meantime. Both Zhang Zhen and Qin Li then head out for the meeting. After arriving at the Ming Palace, Zhang Zhen informs him that the person he will meet is a highly educated and famous doctor in Jiangcheng who recently opened a big medical clinic. He adds that he planned to introduce them since Qin Li wanted to open a medical clinic in Jiangcheng, but he mentions there might be a problem, to which Qin Li asks what it might be. Zhang Zhen tells him that the famous doctor was pursuing his sister and was rejected because of Qin Li leaving him confused. He then explains that Jiang Ran boasted about Qin Li being her idol, so the doctor has high expectations for him. They enter the meeting place and find Zhang Zhen's sister and the famous doctor inside. Jiang Ran promptly greets Qin Li after they enter. Then he goes to greet the doctor, who asks if he is the one being admired by Jiang Ran. After the handsome doctor realizes that Qin Li is the one, he proceeds to talk down to him for looking like a country bumpkin. Seeing that the doctor is disappointed in him, Qin Li wonders what Jiang Ran told him to make him act this way. As he ponders what she told the doctor named Xiao Wenbao, the man boasts about his achievements, making the others feel uncomfortable due to his pompousness. He adds that he even cured the president of the United States of a polycystic tumor. But Jiang Ran cuts him off, saying that he shouldn't be so sure that he is better than Qin Li. She tells him that he still has a lot to learn from others, which shatters his pride, making him furious. But a ring from his phone suddenly interrupts him. So he angrily scolds the person on the phone for calling him on his day off. But the person on the phone informs him that the patient in room 903 is in a critical state and urges him to come. So he prepares to leave immediately. As he bids farewell to the Zhang family, Jiang Ran stops in for a moment, asking if they can come with him so that she can show off Qin Li's medical prowess. She doubts his ability, but Jiang Ran convinces him by stating that she will be impressed if he manages to handle the situation by himself. Otherwise, he shouldn't bother her anymore. Qin Li is taken aback after realizing that he is being used to get rid of Dr. Jia, but he is unable to do anything about it, so he simply complies. They then go to his massive clinic, where Dr. Jia promptly asks his assistant if the patient took the medicine he prepared. The nurse tells him that the patient seems to be dying, which triggers the gangsters around her. A big man that looks like a gorilla shoves the nurse away and approaches Dr. Jia. Afterward, the other gangsters swarm the doctor as he yells at them to stop. The gorilla man then shouts at him for letting the young master's health deteriorate like that. He grabs his collar and gets mad at the doctor for breaking his promise of curing the disease, while Zia tries to defuse the situation. But the gorilla man doesn't listen and simply attacks him, saying that he will teach him a lesson for his lies. Before his attack reaches, he is stopped by none other than Qin Li, who tells him that if he beats him up now, it will be bad for his young master since there will be no other doctors around to examine him. The gorilla man also shouts at Qin Li, assuming he's a friend of the doctor. But Qin Li simply ignores his words and says, "This is an opportunity." The gorilla asks what opportunity he is talking about, to which Qin Li states that the patient's condition is not yet final, so it would be better for the doctor to examine him first. After hearing his words, the gorilla realizes he has a reasonable point, so he lets go of the doctor. Saya feels a bit humiliated after being unable to fight back in front of Qin Li, but the gorilla man interrupts his train of thought and threatens to beat him up if he doesn't check the young master properly, and so they head into the patient's room as the gorilla man watches. Qin Li takes a look at the patient and realizes that the man's illness is quite complex since he cannot sense vital energy from him and feels that something is missing, so he takes a closer look at the dying man. Meanwhile, Xia feels nervous checking the patient due to the big gangster standing behind him. He tries to calm himself down, pumping himself up, thinking that he has done this before. But Qin Li suddenly speaks up, startling him, so Xia scolds him for suddenly frightening him. Qin Li then stops his hand, informing him that he might kill a patient if he continues, pointing out a lump in the patient's neck, which he promptly shows the others. Dr. Ayers. Xia is taken aback upon seeing such a big lump and mistakenly believes it is a tumor, so he tells them that they have to replace all the internal parts involved. As he continues speaking, the patient suddenly groans in pain. Qin Li prepares something while the gorilla man shouts at Sia, who tells him that the patient cannot be saved anymore, but Chin Li believes otherwise, so he tells the two to help him hold the patient's limbs. Both the gorilla and the doctor disapprove of his plan and continue to whine. So Chin Li shouts at them to shut up and just do what he says. And so he begins treating the patient, even as the moon rises in the sky. As he skillfully pricks the important pressure points to cure the disease, narrowly avoiding the points he shouldn't pierce, he remains fully focused in order to heal the dying patient. After some time treating the young master, he finally manages to get him back to a stable state and tells the others that the patient will wake up in a few minutes. Afterward, he will just need some medicine to fully recover. Dr. Sia is shocked upon seeing the result of Chin Li's treatment after realizing the patient's health is finally back to normal. As the patient opens his eyes, he calls out to Mr. Kong, who is crying at the sight of his master finally recovering. Kong then tells him that they are currently at the Jiangcheng hospital and that Chin Li was the one who saved him. The young master calls him Master Chin and asks what he is doing there, as he seemingly recognizes Chin Li. Chin Li asks why he called him by that name. The young master apologizes, believing he mistakenly thought Chin Li was a friend he met in Shangjing, which confuses Chin Li since he has heard that place mentioned before. Kong then asks if the young master is now fine, to which Chin Li answers, saying that his illness won't be a big deal if he gives him some remedies after receiving his medical record. The gorilla man hands Chin Li the patient's medical record while thanking him. Chin Li thinks he might be able to find something out in Shangjing as he signs the medical papers, while Xia is in the background trying to recruit him to be an assistant doctor. But Chin Li refuses and tells him that his own clinic still needs a chief doctor, which makes Xia spit blood after the sudden rejection. The young master then thanks Chin Li, to which he politely welcomes the praise. He also requests Kong to book a private room at the Heavenly Palace so that he can stay in Jiangcheng when he recovers in 3 days, to which he promptly complies. He also invites Chin Li to a party, though Chin Li doesn't give an answer yet. As they head back to the villa, Jiangcheng informs him that he saved an important person today. He tells him that the person he saved is part of the Exu family, which is a powerful family in Shangjing, like the Jiang family. Though they were betrayed and kicked out of Shangjing, they asked Chin Li to find a blood jade to celebrate the party of the old master next week, but he suddenly fell ill. He then adds that he doesn't want to trouble him anymore since their family has no idea what to do right now, but Chin Li tells him that they are brothers. Jiangcheng reaffirms what he meant, so Chin Li tells him that he will cure the old master to help fix their relationship. This makes Jiangcheng absolutely happy, so he informs Li that he has also contacted the CEO of a cosmetics company to help him and his wife. 3 days after the hospital incident, Chin Li arrives at the Heavenly Palace for the party. Inside, there are tons of people partying like there is no tomorrow. Tu Xiao thanks Chin Li for saving him, saying that thanks to him, he is able to party with everyone. He proposes a toast to Chin Li as he lifts his glass of liquor. Chin Li tells him that he's flatter, but also advises him to drink less due to his body still recovering. But Xiao doesn't listen to his advice and says that he has nothing to worry about since Chin Li is there for him. He then whispers to him, asking if he is curious about who he is, to which Chin Li simply says that he is just a patient in his eyes. This gets him a look of approval from Xiao, who declares that they are friends now due to Chin Li's carefree attitude towards him. Xiao's friend calls them over and asks both of them to join the fun since it's rare to see the young master partying. But suddenly, a person flies through a door behind them. A cocky-looking man enters and asks if the man he threw was associated with Xiao, accusing him of spilling his wine. The man denies it, saying it wasn't his fault. Xiao tries to defuse the situation and asks what exactly happened. The white-haired man tells him that his friend broke the rules of their gang, Sirius, so they will beat up anyone associated with him. The others recognize the name of the gang, which makes them nervous. This gang is actually a powerful organization that holds a lot of power despite the Jiang family seemingly being in control of Jiangqing. It is said that even the Jiang family themselves are afraid of them despite them being only an underground gang. The reason they are feared is due to their martial arts prowess. They are martial artists who know how to handle dark power, so no one dares to mess with them. Xiao's friends run away after hearing the Sirius gang's threats, while the man who spilled the wine begs for forgiveness, offering to pay for the wine he accidentally dropped. Xiao also offers to pay for his friend, asking how much they want in exchange for their safety. The gang contemplates his offer for a bit before bursting into laughter, mistakenly thinking that their gang is lacking money. The white-haired man smiles devilishly and proposes a solution since Xiao wants to stand up for his friend. Xiao asks what it is, to which the man replies that if Xiao takes a punch for his friend, they will let him go. Xiao is troubled by this offer and realizes that they only want to fight. Suddenly, Chin Lai steps up for him and asks if he can take the punch instead, which surprises Xiao since he thought Chin Lai had already left. Chin Li asks Xiao to step back, worried that he might get hurt. He confidently tells him that the Sirius gang is only playing around so it won't be too difficult. After preparing, Chin Lai tells the white-haired man to come at him, which he swiftly does, flying into the air. He launches a powerful attack imbued with dark power aimed straight at Chin Li's face. But Chin Lai successfully intercepts the attack and skillfully dodges it using his own power. The white-haired man is surprised to see Chin Lai also using dark power, so he launches another attack, saying that dodging doesn't count. But this time, Chin Li grabs his fist and successfully stops the attack again. The white-haired white-haired man then decides to stop holding back upon realizing that Chin Lai is also a martial artist and prepares to launch a full-force attack. Chin Lai does the same, irritated by his taunts. Their fists collide, resembling a tiger and a dragon, as energy flies all over the place due to the force of their attacks. Zhao finally stops them by revealing that he is part of the Keksu family, which successfully halts the white-haired man since he doesn't want any trouble with them. So the white-haired man decides to make amends and tells Xiao that their altercation is now over. Xiao then asks him to keep his identity a secret, to which the man respectfully agrees. The white-haired man also praises Qin Li's martial arts and asks where he learned them, but Qin Li simply tells him that he is just an ordinary doctor who exercises a lot. The man laughs after hearing his denial and offers him a place in the serious gang, telling him to come by any time if he's interested. After the gang leaves, Xiao also praises Qin Li, saying that he did not expect him to fight so well. But Qin Lai replies that the man simply held back, which made him seem more powerful. Xiao laughs at his modesty and informs him that he will return to Xiangjing in 2 days since he's been away for a while. He invites Qin Lai to visit him in Xiangjing in the future, to which Qin Li agrees. As the night deepens, Qin Lai heads back to his mansion. Zhang Zhen calls to remind him about their upcoming trip to the capital. Qin Li asks why he's calling so early, as there are still 3 days left until their trip. Zhang answers by saying they need to prepare in advance. Qin Lai then asks what time they will leave, and Zhang Zhen informs him it will be tomorrow morning. Qin Lai ends the call, then takes a look at the jade balls, pondering why Zhang Zhen seems so nervous about visiting Xiangjing. As he sets the balls down, he realizes that he hasn't trained in a while after meeting the white-haired man. He begins to train, reflecting that thanks to the old man who taught him the technique, he has been able to earn a lot of money. But he also thinks the old man passed the technique to him for a different reason. And since he still doesn't know who took his parents away or how strong they are, he decides to improve his strength further to achieve his goals. Morning finally comes in the Qin Lai household. Zhang Zhen arrives at the front of his house and asks if he needs any help, to which Qin Lai refuses, saying he can handle it himself. As Zhang Zhen sees Qin Lai carrying a lot of boxes, he asks what they are for. Qin Lai replies that those are all the clothes and food that Qin Yan bought for him when she came to Jiangcheng. Qin Lai then realizes he forgot his underwear, so he asks Zhang Zhen to wait while he goes back to get it. But Zhang Zhen stops him, saying that he already brought a lot of things and tells him to just buy new ones in Xiangjing, and so they head to their flight. Up in the air, they see the massive building at the center of Xiangjing looking luxurious. Zhang Zhen decides to take Qin Lai shopping in the famous shopping area after arriving in the city. Qin Lai sees the price of one suit and is shocked by its exorbitant cost. The sales lady also recommends another outfit that costs even more than the suit. Qin Lai decides to go with the suit, and then they head to a fancy outdoor cafe. He looks at the prices on the menu and is shocked to see that some of the food costs more than his suit. Qin Lai tells Zhang Zhen that the prices in Xiangjing really aren't for common people like himself. Zhen laughs and says this is only the beginning, adding that he will take him to a different place later. Qin Li asks where they are going. When night finally comes, they head to a fancy-looking billiards bar. As they walk inside, a lightly dressed girl greets Zhang Zhen after recognizing him. He asks the girl if there is an available spot for him and his guest, and she guides them to it. The girl carefully observes the two as they grab their cue sticks. She then discreetly calls someone named Ju on her phone after they go out of sight. Meanwhile, the two enjoy a game of pool as Qin Lai hits the cue ball and successfully manages to pot a strike ball. Zhang Zhen is surprised to see his skills, especially since he knows Qin Lai hasn't played before, but Qin simply tells him it was just because the game is fun. Zhen doesn't quite believe it since he lost the first 30 games and asks for a rematch, but Qin Lai tells him they can play some other time since they have to attend a birthday party tomorrow. This causes Zhang Zhen to let out a sigh. Qin Li asks him what's wrong, and Zhen answers that he's afraid to go back because of the birthday gift tomorrow. Lai then asks if someone blocked him from attending, to which Zhen affirms. In the past, Zhen's father was framed for a car accident that injured a member of a large family, leading to their family being ostracized. Even though the person who framed Zhen's father was eventually caught, they still didn't get a chance to explain the situation to the old master in person. Zhen then asks Qin Lai to find a chance to see what's wrong with the old master. As Li agrees to help, a door suddenly opens. A group of people comes in, led by a red-haired man who seems to have a grudge against Zhang Zhen. Zhen recognizes the man as Zhao Sui and becomes a bit nervous. Zhao tells the police director named Liu, who came in with him, that the two are causing trouble and destroying private property. The corrupt director orders his men to arrest them for interrogation. Zhang Zhen urges Qin Lai to leave and asks for help from his father to solve the problem, explaining that the Zhou family is coming after him. Qin Lai asks if the Zhou family is really that powerful, to which Zhen answers that they have influence in all corners of Xiangjing despite not being a first-class family. Qin Lai then asks how they compare to the Xu family. Zhen answers that even though the Zhou family is powerful, they are nothing compared to the strength of the Xu family. He then asks why Qin Lai brought up the Xu family, and Qin Lai reminds him that he saved someone important in Jiangjing. Qin Lai decides to call that person to resolve the situation. Zhao Sui laughs at his effort to ask for help, thinking Qin Lai is just a newcomer in Xiangjing. As the night goes on, the police and Ju wait for the person Qinlai called, but the director suspects they're only stalling for time since it's been half an hour. Zhou taunts Zhang Zhen, making fun of him for using such dirty tricks. He boasts that his family has never been afraid of anyone, and that even the Xu family fears them. At that moment, Tegu Xiao arrives, having heard the man's words. This surprises Zhao, as Xiao is known as the Little Panther of Shangjing, and it wouldn't be wise to offend him. Xiao furiously asks Sui how the Xu family is supposedly afraid of him, but Sui denies it, saying Xiao must have misheard. Xia kicks him in the stomach for trying to fool him, causing fear to wash over the director. Xiao then tells Sui that he could ignore the insults to his family, but cannot forgive him for bad-mouthing the benefactor who saved his life. The director, witnessing the scene, begins to regret doing the Zhao family a favor. Suddenly, Xiao calls for the director, causing him to jump in shock. Xiao tells the director that he should arrest Zhao as well, which makes the director shiver in fear as he tries to come up with an excuse. He points at Zhu Sui, claiming that he was threatened by him, prompting Sui to call the director a two-faced dog for his betrayal. Xiao kicks Sui again and scolds him for speaking out of turn. He then tells all of them to scram, warning that this will be the first and last time he lets them go. They all flee in fear. Once the dust settles, Qin and Lai introduces Tegu Xiao and Zhang Zhen to each other, and they have a friendly conversation. Xiao asks Qin and Lai when he arrived in Shangjing, to which Qin Li replies that he only arrived today and couldn't call earlier. He also thanks Xiao for his help. Xu Xiao asks him to stop being polite and inquires about the reason for their visit to Shangjing. Qin and Lai explains that he came with Zhang Zhen to attend the old master's birthday and to check on his illness. Xiao tells him that the old master is indeed sick, but there's more to it than that, and so the time came for the Zhang family to hold a birthday party for the old master. Both Zhang Zhen and his father arrive at the party and make sure that they have their gift ready. Qin Li follows along as Zhen tells him that they will try and enter the party. At the other side of the venue, an extravagant-looking member of the Zhang family is greeting the visitors. He spots Zhang Zhen in the distance, who is giving a gift to the family, so he arrogantly calls out to him, which irritates Jun. The man named Zhang Ziyang pompously tells him that he shouldn't bother giving a gift since every year before he has given low-value items. He then proceeds to mock him, assuming that his gift for this year is also trash. This makes Zhen angry, but he cannot do anything since Zhang Yang is the son of the family head. The bystanders hear the commotion and start gossiping about Zhen's father, further irritating him. Qin Li steps in and tells Zhang Yang to see what they brought first before he starts yapping, but Zhang Ziang brushes it off, stubbornly assuming it is only trash. Then, a fancy-looking guest spots the jade that Qin Li brought, so he comes closer to take a look, which attracts the attention of the other guests. After the esteemed guest inspects the jade and realizes what it is, they shout that it's a rare rainbow blood jade, which shocks the other guests in the venue. This causes swarms of people to try to buy it from Zhang Zhen, since Zhang Yang didn't want it earlier. Zhang Jiang sweats profusely after realizing the worth of Zhen's gift, so he tries to repair the situation by telling the other guests that he was only joking earlier. He then says that the Zhang family will accept the gift as a token of appreciation, contradicting what he said before. Zhang Zhen asks if they can come inside, to which Zhang Yang replies that they can, but only if they leave the jade with them. Inside, the palace is filled with various traditional decorations. Zhang Zhen walks around pondering the dishonesty of the Zhang family in Shangjing. This causes his father to smack him in the head, warning him that they'll get into trouble if others hear his words. They then go on to greet the head of the family, while Qin Lai stays behind to wait. He takes his seat among the groups of people socializing and reflects on the complexity of the Zhang family's position in Shangjing, realizing that each family member is a big figure in their respective industries. He realizes it won't be easy for Zhang Zhen and his family to return. Suddenly, a voice calls out to him from among the crowd. It's Xiao, waving at him from across the venue. Qin Lai gets out of his seat to approach him and asks why he's there. Xiao answers that his family has some cooperation with the Zhang family, so he was sent along with his big brother. He then takes Qin Lai to meet his brother and sister. They arrive in front of the Xu siblings, and Xiao begins introducing Qin Lai to them. His beautiful sister, Xu Xiu, asks if he is the doctor who saved her little brother's life. Qin Lai introduces himself, confirming her question. Xiao then introduces his eldest brother, Kai Shu Kang, who looks like an esteemed military man. Qin Lai stares at him, catching Kang's attention. Kang asks if there's a problem with his face for Qin Lai to be staring so intensely. Qin Lai apologizes and explains that it's just a habit, meaning no offense. Kang then asks if he thinks he has a disease as well. Qin Lai guesses that Kang recently returned from a mission, which Kang confirms and tells him to continue. Qin Lai explains that Kang has a strong internal injury that has resulted in a persistent disease despite his outwardly healthy appearance. He advises that Kang should avoid future missions due to his health condition. Qin Lai's statement shocks both Xiao and Xiu, who ask their brother if he is really sick. Qin Lai adds that if treatment is delayed any longer, the condition could develop into a lifelong illness. As the sun shines throughout throughout the venue, Kang denies having any disease, accusing Qinlai of being a liar with a foul mouth. So Qinlai decides to say no more, knowing he isn't being believed. Xiao pleads with his brother to let Dr. Qin examine him, but Kang furiously refuses, shouting at him to mind his own business. But the true reason for his denial is that he cannot let the other families know the Xu family's weakness, since they are currently under surveillance. Qinlai then tells Xiao that he will leave now since he has already met his family, so he tries to stop him. Qinlai asks what is wrong, so Xiao explains that his elder brother just has a bad temper, so he shouldn't take it to heart. He then assures Xiao that he is fine and understands that his brother has difficulties being honest. Xiao thanks him for his understanding as he leaves while suspecting that his elder brother really has a disease. Qinlai walks around the venue while wondering why Jianzhen is taking so long and is slightly worried, but he suddenly feels something out of place, so he looks toward where the feeling is coming from and sees a strong evil aura emanating in the distance. He heads to the place where the aura originates and is shocked to see that such a thing was hidden deep inside the Jiang family mansion. Before entering, he notices that there is a dead rat hanging outside the door which is locked with evil spiritual power. He peeks through the window to see what is happening inside and is shocked to find out that there is a person being covered in the evil aura. So he quickly opens the lock and enters while covered in his own energy for protection. As he steps into the room, a strong evil spirit suddenly attacks him. So he takes a defensive stance and pulls out needles charged with his energy before throwing them at the evil spirit, making some of the evil aura dissipate into thin air. He realizes that the aura inside the mansion feels eerily similar to the one at Jiangran's hotel, but a swarm of evil spirits suddenly interrupts his train of thought. So he recalls the lesson that the old man taught him, which is that every formation has a certain weakness. He then dodges all the attacks and tries to find the weakness of the formation. After searching for a while, he spots a skull that emanates a ton of evil energy and figures that this is the weakness he is searching for. So he rushes over to the skull and launches charged needles at the evil spirits surrounding him along the way. Before he is overwhelmed, he lunges toward the skull of the needle in hand and pierces straight through its temple, then charges it with his energy. As a result, all of the evil spirits disappear around him. Now that he is safe, he takes a deep breath and he wonders who set up the formation since it was so skillfully made. He also ponders how the old man got caught up in all those formations, but luckily, he discovered it at the nick of time. He then begins to heal the man as he pulls out a needle imbued with his energy and pricks the old man's forehead with it, causing the evil aura gathered in him to dissipate. The old man then starts to open his eyes and asks who the man in front of him is as Qinlai is relieved that he woke up. He then introduces himself as a doctor who came to the birthday party, which causes the man to realize that he almost died at his own birthday party. Qinlai then asks if he is the head of the Zhang family, due to his words as the old man ponders how he has been betrayed by the people he chose himself. Li asks what he meant, to which the old man tells him that it was his son's fault that he ended up in this situation. Qinlai then informs him that Jiang Lim and his family entrusted him with the old man's treatment, making the man realize their efforts, though he also realizes that they want to be returned to the main family in exchange for curing him, to which Qinlai cannot deny. As the sun shines down on the beautiful palace, Qinlai helps the old man sit upright as he tells him that he also wants Jiang Lim and his family back, but with his condition, he wouldn't have much power to influence the other family members. Qinlai looks closely at his legs and notices that they have been damaged by an evil aura, so he decides to use the third part of the Foxy Needles method. He then tells the old man that he can help him regain basic consciousness. The old man's eyes light up with hope and ask him if he can return to normal, to which Li tells him that he can't, which makes him slump in despair since he has been searching for a cure for so long, and even famous doctors can't do anything about it. Qinlai clarifies that he can't turn him back to normal, but he can help him be able to move around like a normal person. He also asks the old man for a bet, where if he heals him, then Jiang Lim's family can return to the main family, and if not, he himself would do whatever he orders him to. The old man is intrigued by his proposal and agrees to his bet. He also adds that if he wants to return Lim's family, then he still needs to do something else. And so time passes after their talk. Time finally came for the Jiang family meeting, where all of the branch family heads gather. The current head of the family, named Changs, is surprised to see the elder come, even called Jiang Lim, to the meeting. The old man speaks up and tells the heads that he has summoned them for an announcement. He announces that he has decided to bring Lim and his family back to the main family. Jiang Ziang strongly opposes this and asks him if he already forgot what he did, which makes his father scold him for speaking insolently to his grandfather. There'll be ads that his grandfather wouldn't make such a mistake as bringing them back into the family. The other family heads also agree and say that they have no place in the Jiang family. So to confront all other criticism, the old man asks Jiang Lim to explain what happened in the incident back then. Jiang Jun then starts to hand out a document to the others as Lim asks all of them to take a look since it is information and evidence they gathered regarding the incident, which makes all of the heads in the family start arguing about the contents upon seeing it. Jiang Xiang also reads it while having a wry smile on his face. He then tells his father that although he also wants to bring back Lim's family, the elders seem to have doubts about it. Chinlan starts to speak and tells them that there is a document that he forgot to show them. Ziyang shouts at him for interrupting the meeting despite not being part of the family, but he replies saying that he is only handing a document from Zhangjun to the head of the family. Ziyang seems intrigued and agrees to receive the document. His reaction seems to take Qin Li aback for a moment. Ziyang also tells him that outsiders aren't allowed in the meeting and tries to kick him out, but his father stops him. He then stands up while saying that Dr. Qin Li is his special guest. Ziyang is surprised to see that his father can stand up, which makes his father ask if he wants him to be in the wheelchair all the time. Ziyang becomes a bit flustered after hearing his father's words, while denying and saying that he is glad that he is finally cured. His father then whispers in his ear that he knows what he has done, and to just look at the document without any fuss. Qin Li hands him the documents, which makes Ziyang's incredibly enraged after mistakenly thinking that the old man was only pretending to be sick all this time. The old man then asks everybody at the meeting about their thoughts after reading Lim's document. Ziyang smiles since he has a plan to stop what his father is trying to do. He then tells his father that he thinks it's okay for Lim and his family to come back, but they also have to do something before that, which is to recruit a martial artist for their family. The old geysers at the meeting argue about what he just said and state that it would take years to train a martial artist, but it would also be good for their family. An old woman also states that Lim's family is responsible for the incident, even if he was wrongly accused, though a scroungy man says that a martial artist could solve that. The old man thinks deeply after hearing what the others said, since ordinary people need talent in order to reach the level of a beginner martial artist. And after that, it would also take more than 10 years of continuous training to improve. So he asks Lim what level Jun has reached in martial arts. Lim informs him that although Jun is young and strong, it would still take at least a few decades for him to become a proper martial artist. Zhangjun intervenes and asks his father why he is so willing to stay in the family, despite them making things difficult for their family. Changs and his son are happy after hearing his words and tell them that they can't blame them for not letting them come back since his son already gave up. Lim also starts to give up, saying that it might not be possible for them to return to Shangjing in this life. After the meeting, Zhang Lim says while sipping tea that he didn't expect the old master to make the condition of becoming a martial artist even harder. So Zhang Jun asks his father if there is anything else they can do besides becoming a martial artist. Qin Lai hears his worries and wonders if the people from the serious gang are the ones they are referring to as martial artists. So he asks if they have heard of the gang. Zhang Jun is shocked after hearing the name Serious Gang and asks how Qin Li knows them. He calmly explains that he has fought them before, in a bar. The news stuns both Zhang Jun and his father. "You fought the Serious Gang?" Zhang Lim asks in disbelief. "They're all martial artists. Are you all right?" Qin Lai offers a reassuring smile. "If they were a real problem," he states plainly, "I wouldn't be standing here." Relieved, a worried Jun lightly pats his head. But for Jiang Lim, a stunning possibility begins to form. He rises to his feet, his eyes wide with realization. "You fought them off," he presses. "Does that mean you are a martial artist?" Qin Lai admits he's not entirely sure what that title entails, prompting Zhang Jun to explain. He recounts what a friend from the capital once told him, that martial artists are a special class of people, a breed apart who live above the law. They are divided into 9 levels, with the weakest being as strong as seasoned fighters, and the strongest, they are said to be able to move mountains. Jun confesses that he thought his friend was exaggerating, that the claims were too fantastic to be real. He looks at Qin Lai, his voice filled with a newfound awe. "Are the Serious Gang really like that?" "They are," Qin Lai confirms, his tone serious. "They are far more powerful than any normal person." A million thoughts race through Jun's mind. Can you break rocks with your bare hands?" he asks, almost hesitantly. Qin Lai considers it for a moment. "I haven't tried yet," he replies before adding, "but if you wanted to, with enough training, I'm sure it's possible." Hearing this, Zhang Lim sees a glimmer of hope for his family. The patriarch's voice is heavy with purpose as he makes a formal request. "Qin Lai, can you help us?" Without a moment's hesitation, the young man gives his answer. "I can."